beautiful infrastructure, very good here, technology, the statement system, bank system
Bank
here is
system,
very
yeah.
good. Yeah, not like Thailand. Thailand is less than Malaysia, but the people here are beautiful and very nice. I mean,
In Thailand,
yeah, very nice
It's,
people.
I think it's
Simple
friendly
and food also delicious.
Food delicious,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I only eat Arab food in Thailand, in Bangkok.
Maybe I missed that, but I found in the Phuket Island,
In Phuket,
especially in Patong Beach,
yeah.
many Arab restaurants.
A lot of Arab restaurants, yeah.
Because Patong Beach is just for tourists.
Just for tourists, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, ready? That's you from that's yours. You wanna go first?
It's mine.
Okay, who wants to go first?
Me.
It's okay. Okay, you go first. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to our group supervision again. Assalamualaikum and good morning. Today the year has just arrived yesterday straight to Penang, not KL first.
Kuala Lumpur, and then I come here.
Came here, all right. So welcome here. And today we have two presentations, right? Yifeng's presentation and then Salma's presentation. Just two. So we are waiting for a few more next week. Just to note that this week we have Idul Adha, which is a Muslim celebration. It's like the second biggest Muslim celebration, so to say. That will be on Thursday. So beginning Wednesday, the people will take off, will be on holiday.
Monday, right?
Yeah.
1 day, right?
It's 1 day, but Malaysians don't take 1 day holiday. We just take more than 1 day holiday. Yeah. That's generally true for all ethnic groups. Whenever we have somebody else celebrating some festive day, and then we will we call it balik kampung. We will go back to our hometown. Right? So I'll do the same. So I'll be back on Monday. I'll be back here. So Wednesday I won't be here. So because Thursday is the Idul Adha. So right. Okay. Yifeng, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So this will be your first presentation there, Yifeng. All right, go ahead.
Okay, I will begin. My research topic is a study on the participation of parents in reducing burden in primary and secondary schools and the background of the double reduction policy. Research background. In response to the issue of excessive burden on primary and secondary school students in compulsory education, China issued the double reduction policy. The policy clearly states comprehensively reduce the total amount and the duration of homework, reduce students' heavy homework burden. Schools and parents should guide children to complete the remaining written homework after school and return home and engage in necessary academic learning. Parents should actively communicate with their children, pay attention to their psychological emotions, and help them develop good study and life habits. After the implementation of the double reduction policy, research on the parental participation mainly focuses on three aspects: the impact of parental participation on various aspects of children, parental participation in student homework, and the generation and alleviation of parental education anxiety during participation. Parents have been involved in reducing their children's academic burden, but what are the cognitive, emotional, and behavioral behaviors that parents experience during their participation in the process of reducing their children's burden. What effect has been achieved so far? What is affecting parents' participation in burden reduction? The existing research has not yet been clearly shown, so this study will provide an answer to this. The concept parent burden reduction participation refers to activities where parents respond to the double reduction policy call with the goal of improving their children's academic performance and promoting their comprehensive development to help reduce their homework burden and subject-related off-campus training burden. My research questions are the first, under the influence of the double reduction policy, how do parents demonstrate their cognition, emotions, and behavior when participating in the process of reducing their children's burden? During the process of reducing burden participation, what are the types and characteristics of parental burden reduction participation? What factors will affect parents' participation in burden reduction? What are the double reduction standards in families based on policy requirements, parents' expectations, and children's wishes? Based on the double reduction standards for families developed by our research institute, this study explores the effectiveness of parental participation in reducing children's burden from the perspectives of parent interviews, teacher interviews, and children's perspectives. Does it meet the policy requirements? How to establish a model for parents' participation in burden reduction based on current theories and research results? Theoretical significance. Analyzing the current situation of parental participation and the implementation of the double reduction policy, exploring the factors that affect parental behavior, and conducting in-depth analysis of the effectiveness of participation, forming a model of parental burden reduction participation can enrich the relevant theoretical research on the implementation of the double reduction policy. Practical significance. If we want to fundamentally reduce the academic burden on students and fully implement the double reduction policy, we need to enable parents to actively cooperate with the implementation of the policy. Moreover, parents' response to the double reduction policy is the most authentic response to examine the effectiveness of policy implementation, and it is also a reference basis for the government to formulate, improve the double reduction policy. Therefore, it is necessary to conduct in-depth research on parents' participation in burden reduction. Research methods. I mainly use semi-structured interviews. My study uses quantitative research methods to collect and analyze data. The research object is primary and secondary school parents, and it is expected to select 40 parents for in-depth interviews. This study follows the principles of convenient sampling and purposive sampling, selecting parents from Hebei province and striving to achieve a balanced distribution in terms of family monthly income, occupation, education, and the urban-rural area. It is hoped that this can basically reflect the current situation of parental burden reduction participation and have a certain representativeness. Select 20 children and 20 teachers for in-depth interviews to explore the effectiveness of parental burden reduction participation from the perspectives of teachers and children. That's all. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. What is this? CSA?
谢谢，
谢谢。
谢谢，陪伴，陪伴，
陪伴. What does it mean?
Stay with you. Thank you for stay with me.
对
Stay,
陪我的陪.
That's correctly.
伴half no.
No.
No,
For example, your wife is your 伴.
Oh, 伴 half.
伴侣，
No.
But the relationship is more close.
Close.
Yeah, not only half. Half is
Yes.
like an apple, half and
Half,
half,
half.
but our soulmate cannot be half.
Okay.
Your wife, your husband cannot.
Alright, 伴. 这个一半的半.
Because this
Oh.
one means
Person.
yeah, people.
Okay, right. 那个人字旁.
Great.
Okay. Alright, wonderful. So this is your first presentation, and you have come to a point that is very viable to work on. Your research is a viable research. I'm going to make some immediate comments first before we go to the more substantive part. Right. One of the main reasons get you to get into presentation as early as possible is that you want to have the practice of presenting, and presentation is half of your PhD. Why do I say that? Because Viva is that big milestone that would determine whether it can make or break your thesis, your PhD, right? So I think I mentioned this many times. I've seen cases where a good thesis can be downgraded during the Viva, and I've seen not so good thesis because of the Viva, it has been upgraded. I've seen that happen. So presentation is very important. Even though you're anxious, and I know you were anxious last week, I think today you're much more confident, right? It is in that state of anxiety, stress, high stress, that you want to be able to still make your presentation and still defend your thesis, right? So it is important to be able to have a certain level of mastery in presentation and talking about your thesis, especially with the examiners in front of you, right? Out of what 20 some students under my supervision, there's only one student who really did very very badly during the presentation. Basically collapsed. She collapsed during the presentation, right? Raja was there, and then the examiners asked, what's your research objectives? What is your research question? She cannot answer my research question. What's your theoretical vacuum? She cannot answer the theoretical vacuum. She basically collapsed, right? So, but you use her thesis as a benchmark, by the way. Is Dina. But her thesis saved her. In fact, her thesis is nominated to be awarded the best thesis. So it really saved her. So what I'm saying is that the more you practice, the better you get at it. Even that, right? Because of the anxiety level is different when you're facing the exams during the Viva, right? You get worked up and all that. So you want to get the practice of presentation, of making a presentation. And my record is that for PhD students, at least you make at least 12 presentations, 12 or even more. Why? You have about 3 presentations a year, So by a third year, fourth year, you have 12, right? 3 to 4, then you have 12 presentations. So that's the system that I kind of instituted through that. You have more drafts of what you're presenting. Now, still on the issue of presenting or presentation, right? Even your pronunciation, you got to get your pronunciation right, because sometimes the problem is that the examiners have not developed the ear to listening what you want to say, right? So how do you make sure your presentation is right? In your slide, right? You use Google whatever, can actually read it, you can recite it. So you listen and recite it, and you can test it with your non-Chinese friends, because you want to have non-Chinese ears to listen to your Chinese pronunciation, right? So when you say something, your Chinese friends might be able to pick up what you want to say, can understand. But non-Chinese friend might not have the same hearing, right? So you want to test that, right? So pronunciation is important. Your some of your grammar, there's some grammatical errors there. So you want to check your slides before you present. It's things like behaviors. That's like complete redundancy there, right? So you want to behavioral patterns, maybe you're not. You want to check that. So the other one, I'm not sure you have an intro. Can you go to your next slide? Now, I'm not too concerned about your title yet, because we will improve your title later on. And in fact, at the very end, even during thesis, during the Viva, right, the examiners oftentimes will change their title to okay, this is your research background. Yeah. So you in your research background, you want to be able to convey, be able to communicate to the audience, the essence of what you're studying, right? The problem what you're studying. You talk about the double reduction. Yeah. Double reduction. Okay, Muhtadi, you understand what double reduction is? Just to test, yeah.
Yeah.
Not to test whether you listen or not, but you
like reduce the according to understanding this, reduce the burden twice or third time as much as they can.
As much as you can, yeah. That's true. Yeah, you got half of the yeah, that's right. So the Chinese government have come up with a policy to reduce the homework of the students, to lessen the burden, as well as to ban tuition completely. So you cannot have tuition. Oh, yeah, that's right. So you want to be able to convey that you're problematizing the research. Right? What is this research is about? How has the policy created this situation? Yeah. So now, before the burden or the stress, the anxiety, also with the students, right, children. But maybe it has been transferred to the parents now. The parents cannot hire tutors to teach the children.
Can't agree more.
Yeah.
Can't agree more about.
Can't agree more. Okay, because you have a daughter, right?
My daughter is in the first year.
Yeah. And some parents are able to teach all the subjects. Very few parents, right? Maybe at the lower level. But then as they grow older, it be more challenging. So that will be another one. Some parents do not have the time. All those issues, right? So you can highlight that bit in your introduction. Doesn't have to be too long, but you can highlight a bit. So we want to convey that situation, yeah, to the audience, so the audience understand what double reduction means. So because I'm not sure we get it, but we have had this discussion before, so I understand what you want to say. Yeah, so make sure people understand what this double reduction policy is about.
I should write.
What's that?
I should write the policy means.
Yeah. Maybe in one paragraph, the most two, right? One short paragraph, double reduction. That's right. Yeah. So it's interesting because the impact is not only on the impact on this established companies who have tuition, right?
Doing tuition.
Some closed down, right? Some of these campus closed down, right? And some of the tutors have to leave the country because they are English speaking teachers there too, tutors, right?
Many of them come to Penang
When they come to Penang?
to enter the international school, because the international school in Shanghai and Beijing, some advanced provinces in China is so expensive, and their study burden is very high. So many of them Chiang Mai and Penang and Kuala Lumpur is
International school.
best choices, the most popular choices for some Chinese parents.
I see, alright. Okay.
So that's why you can see so many children and parents here.
Children, parents too.
Yeah, parents,
Yeah.
especially the mommy will come,
Come
will come to look after their children here, and the father is working
Father
in
is working in
China.
China,
Very
yeah.
lonely.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
This is like it's like transnational phenomena. Well, Malaysia is benefiting from it, I guess, and like Malaysia is benefiting from the Singaporeans.
Singapore
the
is so expensive.
Singapore doesn't have international schools for the locals. Like all the locals cannot go to international school.
How about Penang here?
Well, we can go to any school we like. We do not want to go to school, it's fine too.
Homeschool. Some people
Homeschool,
have
yeah.
homeschool,
Homeschool, no school.
Okay.
Whatever school.
Yeah, but there was one.
So you don't have, so the Malaysia won't bring out the double reduction policy.
I
It's
don't think
impossible,
so.
right?
I don't think so. I don't.
But they need to reduce the homework, the
Yeah.
school bag. The
The
school
school
bag
bag-
is so heavy.
Yeah, but they've been talking that for decades, for decades, right? They've
No,
been.
I think they will follow China if China set the example.
Yeah.
But what is the reason? Is it because people they're not spending time with the children, and then the children are growing up without parental attention? They just put them in the tuition, and then, or is it because they want the students to be, the children to be more creative, right? Is it? Is it part of
Yifeng,
the
there's a
reason?
question for you there.
You can answer Nico.
Is it why? Okay, first of all, we need to understand why do you have this double reduction policy? Is it because
Because it's society education problem. Parents have anxiety about the
anxiety?
about the children's burden.
But it's also like now with AI and automation, a lot of the things that you memorize is useless because you can just ask the AI, right? So people need to be more creative in their thinking. Is that one of the reasons that they say?
他是都是那个思维
But
方
there
面。
are many technologies, 就很多 like AI. Maybe it's a solution for the parents. Why we still choose this? So shall I translate or shall I use Chinese or English to translate? Shall I use Chinese to translate?
Can.
就是他说为什么我们有双减政策？因为我们现在不是，其实如果家长没有时间，也会有 AI 呀、这些东西嘛。那为什么还是会有双减这样的东西呢？就你可能想让孩子更卓越，那你不是也有很多的手段嘛？像 AI 这样的。So why we still have the double reduction policy?
So yeah.
Because in the society, many extracurricular classes, parents will want to spend lots of money for their children to study the classes. So there are in China, we expect the children to develop 那个全面怎么说呀？comprehensive
to develop their
physical and psychological
to develop
healthy.
their abilities in every aspect,
Every aspect.
not
Yeah,
only in
more-
study.
Yeah. That's very
So
good.
the children in home they have less time to play, to practice the home 那个劳动怎么说来着？
Their housework, home
Yeah,
chores.
yeah, yeah.
Home chores,
Housework.
right?
The ability of doing home housework.
So they they don't have time to to做自己的事情，do do something they willing.
Yes. Okay, that's good. So
Yeah.
this is how you want to explain to people that yeah, you just arrived from Hokkaido.
One quote?
Huh?
Yeah, one, two, one, two.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Hello.
Did you have a stomach ache again? Huh?
What?
Did you have a stomach ache again?
No,
No, have a sit.
演讲吗？
Oh no.
Okay,
Well, we're
okay.
gonna prepare for that. Maybe next week.
So, Yifeng, this is what you want to do, using your own words to tell us what the
Yeah.
problem is, right?
Mm.
So it's even clearer than reading it, right? So, at one point, what would be good if you can reach a level that you can just use points or phrases and then you explain it. That'd be good. But I will evaluate. If it's still not good, stick to the whole text, right? If you can use just keywords and explain it, it will be much better. But I will see. We're talking about 2-3 years later, not now, right? But this is good when you actually explain it. Now we can understand, that the whole problem arises when the students have a lot of workload, academic workload, right? So that's why the government is reducing their workload, the homework, and not even the tuition, even the tuition, right? The tuition is that meaning the teachers will come to the house and teach, or they go to another place and teach, right? And learn, right? So it's good to explain that. Now, I'm still giving you comments here. Can you go to your next slide? Oh, Hafiz is okay. Go on. All right. Go to the next slide. Okay. Parent burden reduction participation. A bit too long a phrase, but I think I understand what you're saying. Okay. So now you are looking at the participation for the parents. All right. We'll come back to this idea, right? Because you're saying that the focus of your study is to look at the participation of the parents. All right. We'll go back to this point. We'll go to your research question now. All right. Your research question number 1 there, under the influence of double reduction policy, how do parents demonstrate that cognition, emotions, behaviors when participating in the process of reducing their children's burden? Okay, I more or less I get what you're saying here. You want to see how do parents demonstrate. Okay, so you want to see how do they demonstrate their emotions. So when you see the word demonstrate, it means to express, to show, right? Sometimes they do not show emotions.
Some parents have the positive emotion, but more parents
Yes.
have negative emotions.
Yes, more have negative emotions. So the point I want to say here, if you use the word demonstrate, demonstrate means to show,
Yeah, to show.
portray, to show, right? 代表 demonstrate.
Demonstrate
So what?
Demonstrate.
Express. Yeah. So some emotions are not being demonstrated, right? Just some are shown, some are not shown, right? Same as cognition. Some is up here, their thinking, their perspective. Some are not shown, right? So maybe you want to replace the word demonstrate with something else, right? So you want to know what are their cognitive, emotional, cognition meaning their thinking, their perspective, right? Okay, emotional, behavioral. You can use the word patterns there, right? When participating in the process of reducing their children's burden. But here, you're focusing on the process of reducing their children's burden, right? Is that? Are you just looking at the process of reducing the children's burden, or you're looking at the general response, general emotions, general behaviors, general cognition, general thoughts of the parents when this policy is being implemented? Because some might not be in the process of reducing the children's burden. Some might say, this is not good, and my children is not given no, there's no tuition, there's no one's guiding my children, so I want to not reduce the children's burden or to increase the children's burden, not burden, but you know what I'm saying. Now here you're focusing on the process of reducing the children.
对，
嗯
具体表现怎么说？performance, general performance when they participate the children's burden, reducing burden. Cognition, emotions, refers to psychology,
Understand? Yes.
inner source. Psychology believes our cognition. If we have a better, a good cognition, we have a good emotion, then we can have the positive behavior. So I want to interview with parents, talk about the three aspects. They, the general 表现 performance, general performance.
Okay. I'm not questioning your cognition, emotion, behavior. I'm questioning the process of reducing the children's burden. I'm questioning that. So, are you just looking at the emotion when they are reducing the children's burden, or are you looking at the emotions, cognition, behaviors when they are dealing with this situation?
I think because the emotion need an increase, not a reduce.
Yeah.
Because children need more emotion from their parents, not reduce emotion. Of course, all of us we like emotion.
We like to have more emotion. So, Yifeng, you understand what I mean now? Is when participating in the process of reducing, right? Some parents reduce their children's burden. Some parents might increase children's burden. So, but if you say process of reducing, you're just focusing on reducing the children's burden. You see what I mean? But you're saying, if I can rephrase this, I would say something like this: under the influence of double reduction policy,
Rather they reduce.
Not reduce. Let's eliminate the word reduce. They say, what are the cognitions, emotions, and behaviors of parents when dealing with the double reduction policy? Simple.
Shall I explain?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So what?
Open question.
Open. Just open.
Question.
Yes.
Yeah. Not reduce, not increase. Just
open.
在双减教育政策下面，那他们的 cognition, emotion, behavior， 因为你已经给他定义了 reduction， 因为有些在双减政策的时候，家长不是说是 reduction 的，他可能反而自己家里增负了，但是你已经给他框死了，就是 reducing。Maybe something not reducing.
Maybe reducing.
Yeah, because the school may be reducing. So I want my children to be better. I will add the homework.
Yes, or reducing in some subject, increasing in
我可能
subject.
会给他加压，那这不就双减？但你已经给他框死了，就是一定是 reducing 的嘛。所以老师建议可以改成 in the process of， 比如说就直接一个宽泛一点双减政策下面，他们面对双减政策的时候，他们的那些就是你已经框死了。
So,
我就想知道他们的表现，就是现在的那个表现，表现怎么说来着？
If you go to the question two.
So question one, right? Research question number one. The general way to improve this one, you can keep it as general as possible. How do the parents
Deal.
what?
Maybe how their attitude. What is the parents' attitude? Right?
Yeah.
Like some may they welcome it. Some actually it's more trouble for the parents, right? Some people say it's taking us expecting me to take up so much of my time.
Okay. Yeah.
What's the commitment level?
Yeah. How do
they embrace it?
Some parents may not want to reduce and just add some homework for their children, right?
We just talked about one positive, one input.
In response
and,
to
talk
what?
about the different
In
outcomes.
response to the double reduction policy. Okay, something like that. Okay, what are the patterns of cognition? We can use the word patterns. What are the patterns of cognition? what are the patterns of cognition, emotions, and behaviors of the parents? Okay, that's good. Cognition, patterns of cognition. Thank you, Hanif, you're helping me. Emotions and behaviors of parents. Behaviors of parents. Behaviors is S2, should be highlighted. In response to the double reduction policy. So, Ifan, can you see we generalize the question now? Can you see that? Is that okay?
In the question two, I talk about the types. It's similar to the patterns.
So, okay. Alright, so here I'm going to go to the front there. I think we had said you can attach my leg. So here your problem is with this phrase here, right? The process of reducing their children's burden. Right? Because some parents might not be reducing, some parents might be increasing, or some parents may be reducing a subject, increasing the subject, right? And something like that. So we remove that one.
Okay.
And then we just want to say, and the other one, the word demonstrate is be problematic because you are showing that sometimes parents don't show, sometimes it's sad. That's where we will talk about the methodology later on. How do they access something that they do not show, right? You get what I'm saying, right? We talk about, remember we talk about phenomenology or whatever else you want to look at. So this is a general question, right? General question. You're saying that this one is overlapping with the second one. What is it?
Reduction.
What is this? Is that what you think? Overlapping, right? During the process of that, what are the types of characteristics of reduction pattern? Okay, here.
Also reduction.
Alright, okay. Characters of that. Okay, so here, because you already have this one, right? You can remove the second question.
So this same question.
Yeah, so you don't need the second question.
Okay.
Yeah, because this one, eventually, it might lead to some types and characteristics, so you will lead to that, right? Okay. Now, what factors will affect parents' participation in burden reduction? Okay, let's not use the word burden reduction in response to the double reduction policy. Because sometimes, as I said, sometimes they want to reduce, sometimes they don't want to reduce, sometimes they want to resist. They say that's good, right? But I'm going to come back because you're using the word factors. Depends on what you want to do, right? What factors? In response to the burden. So you can say what factors? Thanks, Hanif. What factors affect? That's good. What factors? The parents. Response, yeah. So sometimes the parents participate, sometimes the parents respond. You can respond cognitively, emotionally, behaviorally, right? Participate means they are participating in the children, right? Some parents don't even participate; they just respond by not participating, right? They respond by escaping. So, is that okay? Okay, alright. So we don't have to use the word participation. We use the word what are the factors that affect parents' response to the double reduction policy. Okay. But we'll come back to this question because this is a kind of an objective question. But we are going to something that's not subjective here. We'll come back to it. What are the double reduction? This one I do not understand. What do you mean by this one? The question number 4.
I want to know in family what's the standards. I want to talk about
the goals.
Yeah.
What the parents want for the children. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. What are the double reduction standards?
No, I think it's not the parents' goals, but the double reduction policy goals. What are the
Which
goals
one?
of the
Which one?
policy?
Which one? Okay, go on.
Goals.
Goals of?
Whose goals? Parents' goals, government goals, the policy goals, children's goals.
According to the policy.
According to policy,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So you want to know what are the standards of double reduction policy based on policy requirement. Right? Okay, you're all right, right. So you want to know what are the double reduction standards? Oh, so you want to know the families' goals or standards, the policy requirements, and the children's wishes. Right? 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should think the 3 aspects.
The 3 aspects. Yeah.
Policy,
Okay.
parent, and children.
All right. Okay. So the double reduction policy has its own standards. Does it have its own
Standard.
standards?
Of
The government, the policy.
the government conforms the standard the whole society. But I want to conform the standards in family.
And the children, in family, and
yeah.
parents and children. Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to remove the policy requirements, because policy requirements you can get it from just your literature, right?
Literature.
From the policy, the
Yeah,
government
yeah.
policy, you know what the standards are, right?
Yeah.
What's the standard, by the way? In the standards, what the
The policy, the standards in family are
60 minutes, 90 minutes, that's the one, right? Is that the one? 60 minutes for,
yeah.
yeah? Is that the one?
这个time
Time.
or homework time
Homework
and
time.
sleep time and 时长睡眠and total homework.
Total homework.
Uh,
That's good. You speak Chinese first and you translate it. You do a translation. You have a Google translation in your mind, man.
Because the policy is written in Chinese, so she
Oh,
have to translate, right?
Good. So I'm forcing you to actually use your translation machine faster.
Oh, yeah.
Process faster. Yeah. Processing power. Okay. So I think for the policy requirements you can remove, right? You can talk about the parents and the children. You can talk about that, right? So what are the instead of standards? Standards can mean something else. Here it's not standards. Yeah, it's that maybe the word is expectations. Yeah, expectation. What are the expectations? Right? Expectations of the parents and the children in response to the double reduction policy.
The standard is that
Through the interview with parents and children.
Yeah, of course.
I want to think about the children's feeling.
Yes. So children say, I want more, children say, I want less, it depends, parents may say, I want more, I want less, right? I disagree, I agree with the policy, you want that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right, okay. Now, this one, okay, we'll come back to this one because it is in a way part of question number 1 there. But we'll come back. This is how we rephrase it now. What are the expectations of the parents and children in response to double reduction? Okay. Based on the double reduction standards for family, this study explores the effectiveness of parental participation. Okay, participation here might be relevant to use in reducing children perspective. From the perspective. Okay. All right. Here, if you want to measure effectiveness, how are you going to measure effectiveness?
Interview with someone.
With that, okay. So it's a subjective interpretation of effectiveness, or you're looking at their grades. What they get for English, what they get for mathematics, what they get for science. How are you going to measure?
I don't think about it.
You don't think? Okay, so all right. So what you have here, you should have a whiteboard. It's in the next room, but it's okay. So you have the policy, you have the parents, you have the outcome of the policy, and the parents and the children, right? So it depends on how far you want to analyze this problem, right? If you want to look at the parents' participation, right? You will need to map up. You're going to look at children, right?
Yeah.
Is there children standing somewhere? Is there children?
Children, children perspectives.
From the children. So you want to come up with, you want to look at parents' participation, you want to look at, is there children's effort here somewhere? No. No, children is not in the picture. Alright, it's fine if you want to look at that. And then you want to look at the effectiveness. So you need to be clear what effectiveness here that you want to analyze. Is it the grades? Is it the subjective feeling that I have been effective in teaching my daughter, son, children? Is it subjective or is it objective effectiveness, or is it both? So you need to be clear with this one here. If you're not clear, did not have it. How to establish a model for child? Okay, now, I strongly suggest you omit number 6.
I want to answer. I want to ask you if whether I should establish a model or not.
Whether you should establish,
Yeah.
you can, but if you want to establish model, it be the other way around. You should test the model, right? If you have a model at the end, the model is not being tested, so you cannot prove that this is a good model, right? But you can do a theorizing at the end, but not a model. Understand what I'm saying? So you can say, this group of parents doing this kind of things have this kind of results, right? But you have not tested this model. A model will be something else. The model will be coming up from the beginning. So you have theoretical framework, you have the independent variable, dependent variable, moderating variable, mediating variable, put all together and you test a model there. Yeah. But here, if you're doing qualitative, it's not a model of a model to come up with this kind of effective model, but you can come up with a theorizing, a theory at the end, explaining, different responses and different interpretation of the responses. And you have the cognitive, the cognition, you have the emotion, you have the behavior, so you can come up with a model of understanding what's going on. That kind of model, yes. So it's a theory instead of using the word model. If you use the word model, it can be problematic during Viva. And the examiners will say, you haven't tested the model, how do you know it's a good model or not? So you want to put that in. Can you have a framework at the end? Yes, you can have a framework. It is qualitative. You can have that. Right? So you can put this in a discussion chapter, not part of your research question. Yeah? In your discussion chapter, you can have it. You still can have it, but it's your discussion chapter. So discussion chapter is your discussion. So it's not part of your research and it's research findings and all that. It's just your discussion. Right? So you're safe that way. I'm here to make sure you go in and you read. That's my job. I'm like a lawyer a bit, right? So make sure you read the case. Engineer will understand because
I was just in law school.
It's a law school, but we are preparing the case
We
defense.
just do the case analysis.
So it's like what Sun Tzu said, you win the war and then go to the battle. You don't go and test whether you can win and then go to the battle. You don't want that. Maybe this way. No. Win first and then go to battle.
Okay, I talk about it here.
Alright, okay. I'm going to go back to the research question. Because research question is the most important part of what you're presenting. In fact, this is the compass of your research, right? So, right now, you have this you also have your methodology, but I'm going to use your methodology to analyze your research question. Your methodology, you did say you want to analyze 40 parents, 20 children, 20 teachers, right? You said that.
40 parents, 20 children.
Okay. So, in this question here, you have the children expectation too. See? Am I right?
Yeah.
So, do you want to research on the children, or do you not want to research on the children? That's an important question you need to think about. You can have a research that is completely focused on the parents, not on the children.
Yeah.
Because if you're researching on the children, then you need to develop different research questions and develop different research title. Like your title will change too.
是集中在孩子，还是集中在父母那儿，不是孩子那儿。
不是孩子，父母 parents only. Okay. Right. Okay. Parents only. Then I will omit these children from the
Parents
research.
standards.
Only parents standard because you are analyzing the parents only. You put in the children here, your research should be something else because you want to see, whether the parents' expectation meet the children's expectation. Then become a different discussion completely. Here we are looking at how the parents are coping, how their parents are responding to the double reduction policy.
If focus on the parents, is that necessary to make the interviews with the children and
Teachers? No, not
no,
necessary.
the interview. So,
Yeah.
because I see in the question 5, there are the interviews with the teachers and children.
Yeah.
So it's depend on the question 4. If we don't want to do research on the children.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So now I would strongly recommend focus on the parents only. Why? Because your research should become clearer. Your research would not be complicated. Open up the doors to other problems during the Bible. The Bible said, how about the children's this and that? Have you analyzed the children like you analyze the parents? The cognition of the children, the behaviors of the children, the emotion of the children, like you analyze the parents. If you want to do that, you can, but it's a different research.
Yes,
It's a different research, right?
Yeah.
Like you focus on. I think there are a lot of research on the children, maybe not enough on the parents.
I interview the children. I want to know the parents' behavior.
Okay, all right. Oh yeah, interview the children to know parents' behavior. Okay.
Talk about the effectiveness.
Okay.
That's the 5.
Okay. All right. That's also a different research there. Interviewing.
评价过是吗 ？Assessment
That is
怎么说？评价。
comparative.
How to
Yeah.
不评价怎么说？他说孩子怎么评价他们的，
评价
孩子怎么去评价他们的父母？
Okay. But Yifeng wants to study
Their
the
他想
parents.
How
how the children's response to
how the children's response and judge the parents' behavior.
their response and judge is so critical.
You want to look at that?
就他们的反应，
I'm not
孩子对家长的那个做法反应，他想 interview。
I want to
Their
interview
reaction,
the
their response,
teacher
reaction to
and
the
the children
to the parents' behavior.
because I want to know the effectiveness.
Okay.
So it's also the parents' part.
Okay. So you do not. So you still want to do the effectiveness, right? Where is the effectiveness? So again, the effectiveness can be a simple thing. It can be the scores. There is one level of effectiveness. Yeah, we're talking about the score, right? Mathematics, science, English. I mean, it's the scores. And
分数，他们家长
that's effectiveness. That's one type of effectiveness, right?
Effectiveness. When talking about effectiveness, just do the survey.
Yeah.
Have this kind of process.
Yeah.
To be the first survey and
Yes, you could do that. Yeah, you could do that.
So means the standards.
So it depends on what Yifeng wants to study as effectiveness.
effective.
Yeah.
What type of effectiveness you're talking about? The development of the children effectiveness.
Because score is a very important.
Different parents have the different attitude to the same score. For example, 90.
Yes, 90.
I want to ask a question. If there is in the school they do meeting with the parents of children, parents of students.
Yes.
I mean, the school or the teacher or principal of the school do like course a meeting, circle meeting with parents to check the relationship with their children or how they share or participate, reduce double reduction.
Yeah.
Can
The
this
parents
happen?
teacher-
This happen in China?
No, it's a huge work because of the population. Because every class in China, for example, maybe 40 to 50 students. So if the teachers want to do the interview with the parents, it's a huge work. We never did that before.
So, for example, in my when I grow up, still now, there's a teacher. He call him the social work teacher or social social work
Ah.
teacher. The social
School
work
teacher.
teacher have this is like a file.
The
All
children.
information about children and their parents, and also they do at least one in the year meeting with the parents of children. They ask them to come meeting with them
Same,
and to
yeah,
ask
same.
them and to check with their.
Yeah.
If you have this, you can have like data
That,
in the school.
yeah.
You don't need to do interview with teacher. You go to the data and maybe just about the teacher. This is social worker teacher because he know
专
more.
门有一个社工了。我
Yeah,
们
school, social worker of school, school social
we
worker.
talk about the teacher in
Not
all in
every
the
class.
school.
Not every class
All
have
in the
this.
teacher, all in the school.
It's not always going to
Oh, yeah,
apply
always?
in every primary school,
Uh,
or maybe in the early stage of it.
I mean the
Okay.
teacher all in the school teaching.
Yeah,
等一
okay,
下
so,
讨论一
They
下。
teach in the school.
Yeah.
okay, so now let's go back to the point here. You want to measure subjective effectiveness. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so simple, which I think better than to have the objective subject. So the point here is what you can do and should do if you're focusing on parents is that you're focusing just on the parents and ask them how effective are you in achieving your expectation, realizing your expectation, meeting the standards in your mind, right? So they say, oh, my first daughter get 70, my son get 65, I'm already happy, right? Yeah, and I'm so, well, because last time they were getting 50, there's an interpretation of what they see is good, not good, or they say, well, my son gets 80 for English, my daughter got 70 because my son has ability for language, it's good for him. My daughter is better in mathematics, so it's good for her, it's multiple intelligence perspective about children's education. So let the parents define what effective is. You can do that, right? So you don't have to have an objective definition of effectiveness, which is actually a good thing because you do not have to defend what effectiveness is. You let the parents decide what effective is or is not. So you see what I'm saying?
就是你原来的想要建立的是一个 subject， 就是一个有关客观的这样的一种体系。那你既然是要聚焦于家长的反馈的话，那你就必须要对家长的主观反应来做出这样的一种
或者玉峰你记一下，我们会后的我们就用中文可以讨论，否则他们有点尴尬。
So that's
我录音呢。
yeah.
玉峰 make the recording of
Recording
of
itself.
meeting, and later we may have a
Sure,
discussion
sure,
with
you
the
can,
interns.
But it's also good because you're listening to me because you're trying to figure out what I say, right? Both the words and the pronunciation, but that's part of the process of your presentation as well. So there's an objective, there's a subjective. Subjective is what they think, right? What they interpret, what they think. Right? Objective is the grades, for instance, the scores, right? Science 72, mathematics 90, for instance. That's objective. This is subjective. So subjective is the parents' interpretation of what parents' own definition of what effective is. It could be like that. I don't care about academic. What I care is his or her value system, for instance, his or her character, right? Maybe that's effective. Right? That it depends on what they define as effective. So, and then in your research later on, you can say, well, the parents' definition of effectiveness, there are 7 types of definition of effectiveness. You can go that way, right? One is academic, the other one is social, the other one is balance, effectiveness, whatever. Right? You can come up with your typology of effectiveness and all that, right? So that is a good question to ask. But where is it at? So you want to, where is it? Double standards for families develop a effectiveness of parents' participation. Okay, so I would omit teachers and children's perspectives, because you have children and teachers' perspective, then you're complicating the problem again. Right? So you keep it to the parents' perspective. Effectiveness is a study of the parents, not a study of the teachers or the children. No, you're studying the parents. Right?
So you think this question will work? I
You can use it.
I can do.
You can can say, based on the double reduction policy response, how do parents perceive and define effectiveness in their participation in the children's development, something like that.
Can I ask something?
Go ahead.
Sorry. For me, maybe I'm wrong. This question quite weird rephrased, because for me it's like objective.
What?
Objective. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome methodology.
Yes.
It's not like question.
Yeah. But what I would like you to think, because we can reorganize the objectives later on, which one comes first, which one comes later, right?
Yeah.
But I need you to think through it, right? Because if you think through it, then you say, okay, these are the important objectives, and then we say we can rearrange it, right? Or we can rephrase it, change it, but you need to be clear what you want to analyze first, right?
Okay.
Okay? Now I'm going to go to methodology so that we will have a discussion on methodology, which might go back to your research question. Hanif? Thank you, Hanif. Right. All right. So methodology, okay. All right. We do not want to use the convenience sampling. At the PhD level, it's best not to use the convenience sampling or snowballing. You do not want to use that. I mean, snowballing you could use for studying deviant cases that is hard to get data, for instance, right? You're studying drug users, delinquent kids, right?
So I can't use this.
Do not use convenience sampling because you do not have justification to use. Convenience sampling is like you stand outside the mall and pass some good question. That's convenience sampling, right? That is not PhD research. Yeah. What examining a student last time, 2 weeks ago, she actually used snowballing, and I actually questioned the snowballing technique.
And excuse me, I have a question. I can guess that Hebei province is your hometown, right?
Yeah.
Before, yeah. So actually, the purpose of why choosing Hebei province, because Yufeng is convenient and easy to collect the data from there. So what should be how to write to let it seems very scientific.
Purpose is good, not convenient. It's convenient, but it's not convenient. So convenient sampling is
It's
like
just about that accessibility. Not means your sampling method just going to be the convenient sampling.
Yes.
So we couldn't write it here, right?
You don't want to use the word convenient sampling.
It's not precise.
Example of convenient sampling is like standing in front of the mall, giving the question. It's very convenient. We do not know who the people are. It's just convenient. So basically, for PhD level, your purpose of sampling is good, is safe, and you will need to define. Purpose of sampling, you need to define the criteria of the sample. Who can be selected? Purpose of sampling, right? So you can do that. There's no problem with Hebei province and all that. There's no problem with that. Achieve a balanced distribution in terms of family, income. So this will be your criteria there. Family, income, occupation, education, rural, urban areas. The more you define, the harder your sampling is. You got to show your sampling frame. the monthly income is balanced, you have occupation, some are working as the janitors, the cleaners, some are working company CEOs, for instance, right? So if you want to have that kind of balance, right? But you want to say, you want to keep it simple, you want to have a gender balance.
I want to choose some parents. Some of their children in grade 3, some in grade 6, and so on. So occupation, some farmers and teachers. I want to.
Have a mix.
Yeah.
Okay, right. You will define that in your methodology later on, right? So which kind of occupation, how you need to divide your occupation sampling? Because 40 is not a lot. For qualitative is a lot, but 40 you start defining farmers, technician, teachers, then the size becomes smaller and smaller. Right? 40 is not a lot. So maybe you want something more general, professional, non-professional, or white collar, blue collar, that kind of categories, right? So that you do not trap yourself by having, this is just a methodology, but you can work on the methodology question, but I'm just omitting something that should not be here. Right? So, now, I don't think you need this one, so like this. Yeah, I don't think you want.
It is not necessary to interview with the children and teachers.
No, if you have research questions, if this do not contribute to the research question, you don't want to include this. If you have this one, you have findings. You have a separate set of findings now. Another research. If you want to do this, you could also include that in your title. Comparative study between parents and children, interpretation or response to the double reduction policy. There you go. Then you can do a comparative study between those two, right? Parents and children. If you want to do that, but you don't know how to do that, right?
No. You reduce my burden.
Double reduction.
So I only need to interview with 40 parents.
Use the
practice.
I'm part of China policy,
So I only need to interview with 40 parents.
Yes. Now, usually you will hear people saying, quantitative research, on unit 15 and all that. I'll give you an article that you say do more than 30 different expectation of how many is enough, right? The title of the article says how many is enough for qualitative research. We go for 40. Why do we go for 40? Because we want to have a thickness of findings, and that thickness of findings helps in your viva in your thesis, helps in your theorizing too. It's a part of very important thesis strategy. That's.
So I only need the qualitative research.
You only need qualitative research. You only need qualitative research, but your questions must be very good, so that you can have, there a lot of things to analyze, a lot of data to analyze. Right.
So I think my question, the number too short, little.
Too few.
Few.
If you want to increase 40 to 50, that's good. It's even better. You have more data to analyze. Right? I have one student, PhD, graduated now. His thesis is this thick.
Oh.
Did you meet Taufan? Remember Taufan? Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah.
It sounds familiar, but I can't.
Taufan,
I heard about this.
you heard about it? That's this thick, right? So the examiners have to cut the thesis.
What he was writing.
Actually, it became thicker than that as you got to reduce. But that's excellent, right? It's actually my video, right? He is actually the one that interviewed me. He's now deputy rector of university in Jakarta. Cutting and removing is simple process for correction.
Yeah.
Adding is the difficult part. Cutting, removing is the simple part.
Yeah.
So it's good. So you want to, in a fight, you want the enemy to shoot at something you want them to shoot. You know what I mean? The examiners will want to be critical. Let them be critical about something you want them to be critical of. You know? So it's like you let them remove. It's easy to remove. Correction, when it comes to removing, that's easy.
Then, Professor, if we want to make some interviews, so how to determine the number of the interviewers?
For me, my general guide is 40.
For
So sometimes from 40, it can be, it might not get 40, you get 35, and you get 30. There's still
usually 40 is
40 is strong, very strong, solid,
very strong.
very strong. It's like
It's a large.
it's large because qualitative, right? It's qualitative, right? So you want to think about the different, when it comes to interview question, your question will be more than this, not just the research questions, right? So you can think about various aspects of children development. So now that, for instance, right, you can ask a separate question in your research, right? What is it? Yeah. With the reduction of time, with the double reduction policy, are the children developing in other areas? Right? The whole purpose of the double reduction policy of the government is to allow children to have more time to play and to do other things, right? To develop in other ways, playing with the family, doing more housework, home chores, helping the parents and all that, right? Is that happening? Or what is happening when in the absence of less school burden? So you want to ask that question in here as well, right? You see you know what I'm saying? Based on the parents' perspective, right? So parents say, well, my children, my daughter, my son, they have extra time. He just play, game on the handphone, right? It's not useful. Might as well go and learn English or mathematics or science. At least the time is being, positively used.
It's still the burden.
Yeah, let you have more than that. Now, I think that the Chinese parents will have that thinking, but I might be wrong because there are different class of people too, right?
Yeah.
Because from the working class might feel that they do not have the time to think about it, they do not care, and giving a phone is a good way to pacify the students, the children. Not just working class, middle class too, like that. So
maybe this is going to back to the kind of methodology, the kind of theory of the Bourdieu, the capital, the culture capital.
yeah.
Ma-
So you understand what I'm saying, right? This is a part. The other part of the double reduction policy is to help the children, the students, to have more time to do other things.
Yeah.
Not academic necessarily, right? Because academic time is limited to 60 to 90 minutes depending on where they are, right? So what are the children doing? You want to know that? You can ask that. Some parents might know, some parents might think they know. Some parents will say, well, like I said, maybe they're playing games, or oh no, they're helping me with my farming now. I have more time with the farm, or I have more time.
And she can design some questions in the interview.
You can.
Yeah.
So you can think about that part if you want to include in your research questions. Right? In our more traditional culture, the children, the parents will include the children in their work too. If they're farmers, they include the children in as farmers. If they open up a shop, the children will be included in there. If they're carpenters, the children will be included in there too. But is that happening, or is that not happening? And then that is the problem with a lot of transferring of skills. So that someone will know a lot of problem with the heritage is that a lot of craftsmen cannot pass down the skills, right? Like the trishaw, the songko, all this, right? They cannot find people to like apprentice to pass their skills.
So yeah.
So there's a.
What's Chongzong?
Was it?
Chongzong? What's your question? Just now, what's Chongzong?
A trishaw. Trishaw is a 3-wheel, like a bicycle, but you can carry somebody on the side. Sun
It's a kind of pump. Okay. Now we don't have sandwich in
You
China.
don't have sandwich anymore, right?
So the electronic car. You've not heard sandwich before?
You
Maybe.
You
no,
still
like a car.
like
manually or with engine?
Yeah.
manually.
No, we
You can
don't.
still find it in Penang.
We
But it's for tourists.
don't have so
Oh.
much, right?
Sun the trishaw.
The very traditional one,
The cycle.
manually.
Oh,
Yeah.
动的。
上个有打
那个景点的。
在脚车。
而且菜市面卖菜的人家也有。
My
But
country.
I feel bad because the trishaw people, right, when they old people, sometimes I say, okay, I'm too happy for the guy. Let me do the cycling. So because when they go uphill, where I'm from last time, we had hills and all that. Okay, you would come down from the trishaw, right? You would push up and instead of cycling, right? So I said, okay, I'll go down and
Maybe have the different situation in China. In Zhejiang province, we seldom to see that now.
So the trishaw is on the sea.
In different place, in different provinces.
As the most developed province.
Yeah, I mean, trishaw will go away, right?
It's
Have
still,
a high standard and cities facilities.
Yeah, in Malaysia too, the people don't do that for work most of the time.
Yeah.
It's for tourists. If you go to Penang, you can.
Yeah.
It's a
For
tourist.
yeah.
Tourists, it's just going to be a display.
Yeah, tourist in Georgetown.
Georgetown, yeah, the trishaw. But interesting, if you go to Jogja, they Yogyakarta, right?
Call it
They
beca.
renovated.
Beca.
Bukan beca, bentor.
Bentot, yeah,
Bentot,
they
they
use the
put-
bike.
They put a motor there, so suddenly.
Yeah.
It's still a trishaw, but they put a motor there.
Yeah, I saw this modification.
Yeah, it's modified.
That's in Yogyakarta. You been to Yogyakarta?
Long time ago.
Long time ago. So they had it's called bentor. Beca motor. Beca is the trishaw. Motor. They put a motor that's in so far.
But I mean, they can use electrical trishaws actually. Why not?
They
you know?
can, but it's actually illegal over there. But then that was what I because it can be quite dangerous. Because you're sitting in the front, right? You're sitting in the front, and you don't have the seat belt. It's quite fast. It can go up to 50 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
But my son had a great time because anyway, so we are talking about the additional time that's left with the double reduction policy and what the children what the students or children doing with the time and how do the parents interpret that free time. Right? Surely there's something is happening, right? Maybe the children sleeping, I don't know, but that'd be interesting to look at. So this, what you're going to have is like really in-depth insights into the parents' thinking, parents' emotions, and you can see, there are different, eventually you can get to different typologies of these parents, like the patterns, patterns of emotion. And so in your interview, you can ask, you say, the parents say, I'm not sure this is a good idea, and you can ask why do you say that way, right? Well, I don't have time, and if my children cannot be going to a teacher to learn, a separate teacher to learn, then I do not know what's going to happen to my children, right? So you go deeper and deeper and deeper like that. So if there's something there, you say, do you feel a sense of hopelessness? Do you still what kind of hope you still have? You can go as far as the respondents take you. into their minds, into their emotions. Right?
I want to ask another question. Should I discuss the difference between the patterns?
Yes.
Okay.
Then you have many patterns, right?
Yeah.
You be creative when it comes to the questions later on, the interview questions, right? You can go through again. But what you want to be able to see is, the emerging themes of different patterns. The themes will emerge and see a pattern, different patterns emerging there. Right? Maybe parents like it. Some parents like it. Right? They have more free time for the children. And what it also does, I think, what this policy does is to remove that competitiveness or the unfair competition, because the rich can give more to the children, right? More tuition, more teaching, right? But the poor might not be able to give the same kind of outside school education, but the rich can do that. Maybe that's the intention of the policy, I don't know. To make it fairer, maybe.
It pushed more and more Chinese families come to Penang to get into the international schools because after there are not so much homework from school, so we have to cost much more money to some educational companies to learn more. So after collecting all the money, so maybe it's better to come to Penang to get into the international school.
And you say it's cheaper in Penang compared to Shanghai.
Shanghai is very expensive, and except money, maybe you need some relationships to get into some.
Good. Okay, alright.
So it's very pure here. The money can solve some problems.
Yeah. Let's go down a bit more, honey. See what we have there. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
谢谢陪伴。
Thank you for your company.
Yeah?
Thank you for your company.
Same way, thank you for your company.
Send me.
Yeah, listen.
Okay, the second phrase is something
Thank
new
you
for
very
me. So thank you for your company.
Yeah.
Alright. Okay.
Now I have some vocab, Chinese vocab, because
So-
I have a Chinese friend.
Alright.
They told me, 不用写，不用写。
不用写。
The
不用写。
I don't know if it's like
Welcome.
Yeah, he's the new guy.
no, it says new.
Thank you.
Not this one, another one.
Yeah.
I copied.
不用写。
Yeah, actually, this is I choose the newest one.
No, this is not the newest one.
Okay.
There's another one. This is one more, right? Because you cannot see, must be the next one.
Garden,
There's another one? No?
there's some.
Green copy.
But I cannot see.
Sorry. Maybe I give you the pen drive again, right?
How come that?
Oh, medicine.
There is a wanted to ask you. But
Okay.
So ulam is the name of herb. Ulam is mean herbal. Yeah.
Autumn gardening.
这第一个词是什么意思？
Ulam.
Like the birds in the garden outside.
yeah, it's
Some certain places, garden, sometimes or maybe
Because it's the closest definition.
bright.
It's what?
The closest definition is herbs, right?
Herbs.
Yeah.
Or salad.
Salad.
I mean, it can be either one.
Yeah.
I just can recognize this one's a curry leaf.
You're right. It's curry leaf, yeah. Yeah, salad would be another way to
And it's a Thai basil.
have basil.
Okay.
Sorry.
So ulam can be herbs or salad.
Salad.
Salad, so, yeah. It is it's a bahasa word.
Bahasa word. Ulam.
Ulam.
Yeah.
Ulam mean herbs
Herbs or salad.
or salad, the same.
Yeah.
Same.
Oh.
More or less the same.
It's could have been the
那个是打哈萨。
New. Yeah. It's just new
我要
from
去什么？
缅甸 why？缅甸
Woman.
All of us do that.
The
All of
video
us
is
do
big.
that. Yeah.
I recorded this video.
You recorded this video?
Yeah.
不要去缅甸，what's this？
就是缅甸不都是割腰子，骗人的。
It's very dangerous.
Maintain?
I feel so sad. Talking about a man, talking about a woman like this. Come on.
What's maintain?
It's a country's name. Burma.
Oh, Burma. Yeah, Myanmar. Okay.
Many victims.
Victims.
Yeah.
Oh yeah?
Kill us.
She was talking about the electrical flaw. Those suspects were just hiding in Burma.
In Burma.
And trying to make some phone calls to the flaw to enact the victims' knowledge.
你把割腰子说的。
Okay. Are we ready for this one?
Yeah, let's go on.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay.
The floor is yours, Anna.
Okay, so I'm doing my master's in anthropology, and this is actually my final term. What is the schedule? It is my final term.
Go check.
But actually, the last time I presented, I think was in October 2021. It was a long time ago. Yeah.
21.
Must be because it was 1 year immediately after I enrolled.
Alright.
So that's why I'm a bit anxious about trying to complete this. Okay. Okay. So okay, the next one. So anyway, this is the title: Ulam Consumption and Edible Plant Gardening. So it's both eating the salad and also gardening and growing it. And then the people I'm interviewing are just the normal people, the middle class people in the internet. Next. Okay. So just to say what is ulam, it's a Malay word for fresh local herbs, but the herbs are used in a salad dish in Malay cuisine, and it includes roots, shoots, fruits, vegetables, medicinal and aromatic plants. Although you don't eat the aromatic plants or the medicinal, but when you say ulam, it's a very wide kind of idea, right? So it's part of Malay and also Peranakan. Peranakan are like the Chinese who have been in Malaysia for a long time. So it's part of their food heritage. And for the urban Malays, they just think of it as makanan kampung, like what they eat in the countryside. So ulam is usually cultivated as part of the home garden. So usually you have a few pots of something that like curry leaves, that you use every day for cooking, and then it's also used for like medicinal way, for home remedy. Yeah. So for example, if you have a cough, then you may take Mexican mint, to stop your cough. So it can be considered an indigenous cultural food, which is not part of the dominant food system. So it's something that most of them you will not find in the supermarket, although some are available in the supermarket, or you can also incorporate some commercial vegetables. And the growing trend in ulam consumption is linked to dietary health, holistic medicine, self-care, and well-being. Next. Okay, so this is an idea what it looks like, ulam platter. This is a picture I took from online, but I do want to take my own photograph eventually. So you have sambal right in the middle, which is a kind of chili paste, so people, sometimes they say the sambal is more important than the ulam. And the sambal is male, the ulam is female, there's sort of all sorts of ways of
And this is finger lady?
Huh?
Finger lady?
Lady finger.
Lady finger, yeah.
It's like ulam here.
You can use it for ulam. There's many vegetables, but usually must be raw. Although you have some cooked vegetables, so you see at the top there is some cooked, maybe carrots or something, or aubergines. So you can have some cooked vegetable, but majority will be raw. And if you have wild vegetables, it's even better. So vegetable that you pluck from the tree that is wild, okay? Okay, and I mean I say female because there's a saying called ulam mencari sambal, which means like the woman is looking for the man.
Peribahasa ya?
Next.
I didn't know that sambal is men.
So just to look at other types of salad, the Indonesians call it lalap, right? But lalap is supposed to be from, or lalap or lalapan, which is supposed to be from Sunda. I think maybe during the Majapahit time, they say it's from Sunda, but I see it everywhere lah. And then the Italians actually also have, it's not just equivalent to salad, it's equivalent to something called pinzimonio, which is you eat it very raw. It's not like so much like the English salad where you have salad dressing. So the French crudité is more like English salad, but the Italian one is just to celebrate the olive oil. So when you have just made the olive oil, you must eat it with salad and some salt lah. So salad comes from salt, the word salad comes from salt. So the same thing with this ulam, usually they glorify the sambal rather than the vegetables, because the vegetables are there. Next. Okay. So the other thing about ulam is nasi ulam, which is a bit more complicated. I'm also trying to make my own nasi ulam, but it's a lot of work. So you make rice and then you have a lot of salad inside. And then there's usually, they will talk about 33 herbs, 11 or 33 or must be 55 or something, odd number.
Odd number.
But I don't focus so much on nasi ulam because it's a bit complicated. Next. Okay, my focus is actually the relationship between food and health. And then, that's how I started. And then, during the COVID pandemic actually, so edible plant gardening represents a way that you combine healthy food and gardening as a part of active lifestyle. So I'm interested in people's changing relationship to food as a response to challenges of modern life. And I relate my research in urban Penang to contemporary social issues such as food production and consumption. Maybe patterns is a better word, consumption patterns, as contribution to food anthropology. So it's supposed to come under food anthropology. Next. So how do people eat ulam? I mean, they consume it when they go to Malay store. I think many people, even non-Malays like Chinese and whoever, will go to Malay store, eat Malay food, and then they will have a side dish which is ulam. And then you can also use it, like the Peranakan will use it a lot in cooking, salad and cooking. Or they put it as a garnish. And then you can buy ulam from the market, from the wet market, but not so much from the supermarket. If you want more variety, you go to the wet market, and you can also grow it yourself, or you can pick it from the wild. Next. So this community that I'm looking at is there are community from the Ulam Gardening Club. It's actually now it's become a hybrid community. It started out as a virtual community because people were communicating on WhatsApp, but now a lot of people know each other, so it's like a hybrid. They actually have a relationship with each other. So they started at the beginning of the lockdown in April 2020. So they're mostly there are people who live in apartment, house, or they have access to community garden. And they are very passionate about edible plants, gardening and health. So it includes people who are involved in civil society like NGOs. I'm not sure in China you have NGOs. But food businesses, ecotourism business, and some people who even initiated a community farm. So there's a healthy cultural exchange between people who are familiar with Malay food, TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, and also Ayurvedic. So people will say, oh, actually in TCM it's like this, Next. So this is like our logo. Next. And then, so the research topic is, what types of people join Ulam Gardening Club? Who are the social actors interested in ulam as food? Who are the social actors interested in edible planting and gardening? edible plant gardening, and then what are the kind of things, the meanings that develop among them, and what are some of the examples of intercultural learning. So they learn from different people from different cultural backgrounds, and then use adaptive research strategy to answer the what and why questions. Next. Okay, so food anthropology. Food usually looks at food as cultural symbol and social practice. Food can also be a social marker of status. When you talk about authentic food or exotic food, food which is authentic or not authentic, it's exotic or it's local, and then authenticity is socially constructed as part of the local food discourse. So when you talk about local food, you say, oh, this is really local, and this one is not really local. It's like a fake. Actually, it's from somewhere else, but it pretends to be because this place is famous for this food. So this one is very authentic. And then, so there are new or non-mainstream food trends such as veganism, but veganism is now very mainstream, but it started out, not so mainstream. Ethnic food. So these are people's changing food consumption habits in response to modernization. Next. Okay, so these are the relevant Malaysian literature. Actually, there's a lot of ethnobotanical studies, and then there's a lot of a few general studies, and there's studies on Malay food heritage. But actually, there's not so much in terms of anthropology. I think hardly any. So there are studies about the nutritional benefits of food, and then the benefits of urban farming and food gardening. Next. Okay, so these are objectives of the study. I think I've repeated that. And the significance of the study, increase awareness of the value of ulam consumption and edible plant gardening, contributing to diversity of nutritional sources and food landscapes. Fulfill the theoretical and empirical gaps in the moral social agency. I'm not sure what that means, but of edible plant gardening in Malaysian context. Okay, enhance the social construct concepts of edible plant gardening as a commoning practice. That means, people having shared resources and shared knowledge. Okay. Aid policymakers in advancement of edible plant gardening as a strategy towards health, food sustainability and community in Malaysia, and generate further research on social dimensions of ulam gardening. Okay, next. Okay. So, anyway, that one I think I presented long time ago. And then this one is the new stuff that, so, I mean the ulam thing is quite complicated. So when I talk about significance, I try to break it up into different sections. So ulam is a traditional food, so it's regarded as a Malay food. And then in terms of the nutritional knowledge, so when I try to look at historical sources, so I find that people are talking about, like in early 20th century, newspapers. So they said that, the Chinese migrants who come to Malaysia, they're short of something, so they developed a disease called beriberi. This was very common among the mining workers. And then among the Indians, they have, I think, vitamin A deficiency. And then, so somebody remarked, but you see, you look at the local Malay population, they don't have beriberi, they don't have vitamin A deficiency, and what do they eat, But there's also, among the early nutritional anthropologists, they say that, the Malays don't eat any vegetables. I don't see them planting vegetables. Because the Chinese who came here, they have market gardens, so they actually started to grow very intensive. This is intensive agriculture. So I also learned there's something difference between intensive agriculture and extensive agriculture. Extensive agriculture, you don't have to work on it, So then somebody noticed that, actually they're just picking, from around the village. There are so many vegetables that they can pick, and they just grow very few things. So it's not that they don't eat vegetables, actually they eat a lot of vegetables, especially during the monsoon season. because the anthropologists who went to there, they said, oh, I don't see any vegetables. But you know, but then this woman anthropologist went to the village, and then she saw people. Where they pick it from, she doesn't know, but they're coming in with so many vegetables, and most of them are, I mean, half of them are, let's say, wild vegetables that grow in the wild or they're semi-cultivated. So the first study of ulam was actually, I mean, in English lah anyway, was actually in 1940, which is quite recent. And since then, I don't think there has been a serious study. There have been some articles, but I found this, I had to check this document out. It's a very slim publication. The Malay leaf and other vegetables and the analysis. And it's an agricultural publication. And it is such a rare book that I had to get it from Singapore anyway. And somebody got it for me. So ulam that's ulam in agriculture. And since then, according to this agricultural researcher I interviewed, they don't teach about ulam in agriculture. They teach about plantation crops like rubber, palm oil. So ulam is like what do you call it? Like a niche, very niche, and not talked about at all. But he said, but now that all his colleagues are getting old, they're all looking for ulam because they know it's important for health. But they never study it. They never teach people how to plant it, you know. So it's a health food. Of course, there's a lot of articles, ethnobotanical studies about the phytochemicals and all that you find in ulam. And then of course it's also indigenous and local knowledge. So indigenous, like there's actually UKM group that's looking at ulam, which is used by the orang asli. And so from indigenous knowledge, it becomes local knowledge. And what I'm looking at is not so much indigenous knowledge as local knowledge, but it is the local knowledge which takes from indigenous knowledge. And then, of course, in the culinary tradition, so now even this, some 5-star restaurants, you know, they are using ulam in a very aesthetic way to make it look very beautiful, and yet it's, you know, it's a crunchy vegetable. I forgot to show that, but there are some pictures which I forgot to put in the slides, but in the next round I'll do that. Next. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So, conceptualization of the topic. You know that Malaysians are the most obese people in the whole of Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Really? Yes. And they have half the
Yes.
people in Malaysia have metabolic disease. Either they have hypertension, or they have cardiovascular risk, or they have diabetes. Diabetes is, I think, one quarter of the population. So because the food habit has changed, and people are eating more Western food, they're eating more processed food, so it's really a public health challenge, huge, you know. And then they are sitting down and not having an active lifestyle. So the food consumer dilemma is like, okay, how do you know where your food comes from? What do you know what do you know is in the food? So people usually, they will read the package and they look at all the calories and then the nutrition in the food box, right? And then they try to make food choices. They read a lot of articles, but it's very, very confusing. Some people say cholesterol is bad for you. Some people say cholesterol is good for you. And the science keeps changing. Last time they said you cannot take eggs. Now they say no, you must take egg, including the egg yolk. Or they say you cannot take butter. Now they say you have to take butter.
I want to ask, this is religion obviously. Does it include India and China, or just Malaysia?
Southeast Asia.
Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
No,
And
no,
then
I mean, this is the red one.
Yeah, that's Malaysia.
Malaysia, right?
The rest, yeah.
Just Malay or Chinese or?
No, anybody.
Malaysia.
Can be anybody.
Yes.
But I think it's like diabetes is the highest among Indians, and second among Malays, and third among Chinese. For diabetes, and then hypertension. I didn't look at hypertension. So okay, so Malaysia come up with new dietary guidelines in 2020 where they said they included much more vegetables. So the food pyramid, which I'll show later, instead of oils, and then protein, and then carbohydrate, and then vegetables, and then carbohydrate. So now the carbohydrate and the vegetable change place. So vegetables and fruits should be the most. Yeah. And then the whole concept, the whole idea of food literacy, okay, which I'll talk about later. And then food gardening is, when you look at all this and you look at the whole dominant food system or industrial food system, so food gardening is actually an act of food, becoming a food citizen. So you have a new relationship with food. Okay, next. So, okay, this is, I think it aptly describes the crisis of industrial food system. It's both systemic and existential. The integrity and capacity of agri-food system, that means the big business, to feed humanity well for decades. From the 50s onwards, we say, oh, you have all these chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides, and all that. We have the Green Revolution, and it's going to solve all the world's food problems. But now people have a lot of doubts because first they doubt about the chemicals and all that, and then also, they look at the whole health epidemic, like obesity epidemic. People are eating this food, they're becoming unhealthier. So what is happening? So the question is, what can be done? The food system dilemma is in fact one dimension of larger human species predicament in New Zealand. How do we organize ourselves to inhabit this planet? So there's an environmental aspect, that we have to also live with other species. Now, the what do you call it? Agricultural system is taking up, converting, forests into palm oil plantation, and is wiping out so many animal species, and we only have husbandry. So you have a lot of chickens and what do you call it? Chickens and cows are basically that is like how many percent of all the animals in terms of mass, in terms of how many percent of the animals on the planet, but actually where is the room for wildlife and other species? Okay, so next. So anyway, food literacy, okay. So this idea, because that's a big problem, but I cannot handle the big problem. So I'm handling it at the level of like eye level, it's a level of food literacy. And this idea of food literacy is that you read food, so you understand food. It's like learning to read. Acquiring food literacy means able to make sense of both local and global food systems and how they impinge on each other, to make practical and sensible choices, and a small but real way to actively transform food system through one's actions and food choices. So this food literacy comes from this idea that you can read, you can understand, you can make sense of food, and you know where it comes from, you know where it's grown, how it's produced, who benefits, who loses. There's also an element of course, environment and social justice. And then sustainability. And then also the cultural significance of food, because when let's say people try to introduce new food, but it may not be culturally appropriate food. So culturally appropriate food, the right to culturally appropriate food is an idea of food sovereignty, which is, I'm not dealing directly with that, so I'm just dealing with it at the level of food literacy. Okay, next. Okay, so there are two movements that I relate to. I relate this movement to lah. One is slow food philosophy, which came out of Italy because they wanted to open McDonald's in Rome, and then these people said, no, you're not going to open McDonald's in Rome. So they I don't know, paraded some pasta or something like that, in front of and then that became a thing. So they're championing local food and traditional food. So they want food which is good, it has quality, it's flavoursome, it's healthy, and it's clean. That means the production doesn't harm the environment, and then it's fair, accessible prices for consumers, and fair conditions and pay for producers. So this is, if you imagine the Italian landscape, so they also want to conserve the Italian landscape of wineries and olive oil production and all that, and that is slow food as opposed to fast food. So the enjoyment of the food is also very important. And in fact in Italy there's something, I just learned a new word, it's called ristanza. Ristanza means staying. So you stay where you are, and you don't let this big business, big food corporations take over the land, so ristanza. And then regeneration, action, yes, regeneration. So the other one is permaculture. So permaculture is come from the other side of the world, which is Australia, and they are actually into design, so efficient energy design and design for sustainability. And they have plans how to survive, nuclear war or the end of civilization as we know it. They are thinking very far. So many of them are living off the grid. That means they don't want to be dependent on the capitalist system, so they can survive even they're in the middle of nowhere, right? But by planting, using a lot of, the local, the knowledge of how to plant and how to how to reduce a lot of things, technology also. So the principle is earth care, people care, fair share. So it's similar, but it's coming from different priorities. Okay, next. Next slide. And permaculture, yeah. So Bill Mollison, who's the founder of permaculture, he says that actually he was part of the student movement. So he says that you can't use the arguments against the same industrial food system that you are dependent on. You are dependent on that system to give you the goods, and yet you are criticizing her. So you have to be independent. So anyway, these are the people that I interviewed. So why they started edible plant gardening? Some were already exposed from early age, and it's part of their how they were brought up. So these are the people actually with the most knowledge, because they've been doing it for a long time, and many of them are cooks. They're also really good cooks because they use the herbs, regularly in their cooking. And then some are just retirees or semi-retirees pursuing leisurely activities, and these are the ones that some of them, not half. It's like some of them are very garden proud. There are people who love, to have a very orderly garden, and the other half have a very messy garden.
With me.
Those, because they're retired, so they have time to organize it. Yeah, and then there are those who started in edible plant gardening during COVID pandemic lockdown, because there was nothing else to do, so they started gardening. And then there are some people who went through health crisis. They had a health crisis because they were just eating like everybody else, and not really very critical about what they were eating. And suddenly they have a health crisis. They have cancer or they have leukemia or something. And then they have to really start to think, oh my goodness, is it because of the food that I'm eating? So they have to totally change their diet, and then they have to find out what is real food as opposed to the thing that you just get from the supermarket. And then some people, because they took a course, like permaculture design course, or one of them, they went to Germany and then had to cook for herself, and then she also learned from all the friends and the teachers and all that, and got into herbal plant gardening. Okay, so next. So these are some of the interviews, and then so I have so far 5 ulama types. Okay. So ulama is ulam plus gardener. So this is Dr. Rivani's contribution, and then he's the one who gave me that name. Then I said, no, it sounds like ulama. But then actually it's, I come back to this because it's a good name, okay? So ulama. So these are the culinary guardians. These are the ones that tend to be the one who during childhood they were already exposed and they have been cooking, they've been using the herbs all the time. So the second group is the people who are interested in home remedies, right? Things that they can do for themselves. And your garden is like your medicine cabinet, right? And some of these actually they have TCM background, and the thing is, but they're not practitioner, like they're not TCM practitioner. So they've taken the plants to the TCM shop, right? The herbalist, the Chinese herbalist shop, and they said, "Is this the plant that I should take?" And the Chinese herbalists, they cannot associate the dried plant with the fresh plant.
Oh,
They cannot recognize at all.
even though it's the same plant. Yeah.
Sometimes it's the same. So these researchers, they will say, actually it's the same plant.
Yeah, because they have research on that.
And it is used in TCM, but when you go to the one who runs the shop, maybe it's not the master, right? But it's the one who runs the shop, and they are not the producer. So they just order the dried herbs. And they don't, sometimes if you know the Latin name, then you know it's the same one. But from the Chinese name, you're not sure.
So full literacy, this one has a little full literacy there. The ulamas have higher full literacy, so to say. Right?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, but we, of course, sometimes we say this is good, and then they say, oh, it is used in TCM, and since thousands of years or whatever lah.
Eugene's mother is a TCM practitioner. Doctor.
Yeah. And then
Gynecologist.
gynecologist for the TCM.
Yeah.
Wow.
My grandpa is also TCM.
Wow. So and you are okay. I mean, must be your whole family.
I choose another career.
Huh? Choose another career. Okay. So the Malays also have healing plants, and then for the Hindus, actually it's very part of the religion. I know the way that it was explained to me, they use it as a offering to the deities, and then after that they will eat the same thing. So they say that if you go to the temple, and whatever the temple gives you is actually for benefit. They give it as offering to the deity, and after they use it to pray to the deity. Then after that, the temple give it back to them. The temple will give it to everybody, So they say that
like a sharing culture.
in religious temple, yeah. But so he explained that actually it's this fruit, this herb and all that. So actually many of those have medicinal benefit. So that's why when people go to the temple, so they get some small medicinal benefit from the things, the spices or whatever that they're given. Okay, next. Okay, then next slide. Okay, so these are the locations. So far, most of them are on the island and on the side of the island. And then the yellow dot at the top is the Taman Jajar. There's one community farm there, and then the one at the bottom, there's another community farm, in the south.
You guys should go to the community farm, right?
Yeah.
Guys, you should go to the community farm. This is really
Community farm where?
The one nearby,
The one
Sungai.
nearby.
National Park or where?
No.
The community themselves.
Community.
Nah, the people.
The community hold a farm.
Okay, where this? Which area?
It's in Sungai Ara. I can
Sungai
give
Ara.
you it's not so far, very
Not so
near.
far, yeah.
And this one is more developed than the one in the north. The north, they just started, so it's still starting
So
up.
the
It just take a
purpose-
few more years.
The purple spots in the gardens.
I think
Okay, it's a
if
community
if
garden.
We go to Sunspare Town,
Uh-huh.
You can go, yes.
So this piece of land is by the river. So there's a special department for the river, government department. So actually you cannot build buildings right next to the river, although it happens many places. But they're not supposed to build next to the river because it will compromise a lot of the cleanliness of the water and things like that. And then so there's a drainage and irrigation department, but they allow people to grow food next, to grow vegetables or something, to have a community farm next to the river. So both the community farm are actually on the land of the river reserve. Yeah. And it means like the land doesn't belong to anyone, but you have permission from the government to plant vegetables. Okay, so just continue. So the three other types. One is the awakening food citizen. So people who during COVID period they started to plant vegetable, and then they started to learn about food, and then they started to become, from food, from the relationship from food, then they start to ask other questions. So they become food citizen, what we call food citizen. And then the fourth one, I haven't interviewed because I know who they are, but then because I'm one of the messy gardeners, right? So but I think I have to make another 2 interviews to populate that group lah.
Which one? The garden proud?
The garden proud.
Okay.
So they may plant vegetables, but their vegetables are part of a very beautiful and orderly garden. Yeah, they don't let the vegetable mess up the garden. Whereas the number two group, the healing, the remedy, those who are looking for home remedies, they are the one they will eat weeds, grass lah.
Grass You eat grass as well?
I mean, yeah, because there are different types of medicinal grass. So they know this type of grass is different. So they're actually weeds, right?
They're weeds, yeah.
And wild plants that grow in the wild. So they will eat things that they believe are good for them, or they will just juice it. But the garden crop people will not do that,
It must be. I have a lot of time to do because to maintain a nice garden. Not that easy.
So some of the weeds are actually medicinal if you know how to recognize. Anyway, so then you have the ecosystem builders or the networkers. So these are the people. Some of them, the interview is not very interesting, but they are the one that are delivering, somebody have something to share, so they will go from one house and then, I'm going that way, so I will collect from your house and go to the other house. So they are the logistics people, the logistics provider. So I don't know, I group them as, maybe they shouldn't be in the same group, but there's an urban farm pioneer who, of course he's way ahead of everybody, because not only he is doing the farm, he's sort of not organizing people, but conceptualizing the farm and then putting down the rules and all that. And then there's a lot of farmers there, so they exchange a lot of knowledge. And so ideally it happens in a community farm. But there are some who are just, collecting, maybe I should put them in a separate group. There are some who are just collecting coffee ground from the cafes and then distribute to other people, or collecting eggshells and distribute to other people. So maybe they should be in 2 different groups. Okay, so the next slide. Okay, so the relationship between the ulama type. So you have, these people are quite close together, but the garden proud people are like a bit isolated because, it's like, I don't know, there are, if you,
Interesting,
because it's in their home, so maybe the home, it can be a bit private to other people, and they are not so much involved in the network because they are quite happy to share actually. When they have surplus, they share, but they don't need anyone because they buy things, they just buy, they have the money to buy, so they don't need to get it free. But they're happy when they have surplus to give, but they don't take so much as they give lah.
The garden proud.
Yeah. They're very good at what they do. I'll call you back a bit later. Okay, sorry. Okay. Next. Okay. So, and then some of the meanings that you get from this, just like what is ulam. So when they say it's fresh, of course it's fresh. It's not wilted. Okay, but there's another meaning, which is it is not stored, it is not transported. You just take it from the leaf, you just pick it and you just eat it, right? So of course, ulam should be raw and it's edible. And edible is contrasted to ornamental, because everybody used to grow ornamental plants and then they got rid of the ornamental plants and then grow edible plants. So it's local, okay, it's indigenous, which also includes naturalized. Like ulam raja is actually from South America.
South America, yeah.
But we think
of
it.
Of that at home. I have a lot of ulam raja at home.
Yeah, we think of it as local, but it's naturalized, and then it's off the land of the land, terroir. So it's part of this idea of terroir. And then it's natural, it's not artificial, it's not processed food, and it's hand-picked. So the hand-pick is quite a hand. You just pick by hand. And even you go to a restaurant, you know that the herbs have been picked by hand. It's not commercially harvested. And it's a side dish usually. And then it's a special. So one of the interviewees described it as, oh, you only do this ulam platter for special occasion. And these are the friends that you really enjoy the company. And then you eat it very slowly, and that's why you have ulam, because you can take a long time eating. It's not so many calories, right? You can eat and then you have a lot of variety on the plate. So people will be saying, oh, what is this? What is that? And then it can be medicinal. So it's good. It's good that it's not useless, but it's also not harmful. And then it's usually they will say it's Malay, So for the Malays also, for example, take a lot from the orang asli. But for the urban people, we just say it's just Malay, right? And then and then it's wholesome, it's authentic, it's homegrown, and it's wild. Wild is not commercially cultivated, but actually you can have a so-called wild tree in your house, because this tree is people usually don't cultivate, but you cultivate because you want to eat the ulam, and it's green. As you know, the people who are looking for green things, they don't want so many high rises. So all these people don't like too many high rises because to create concrete structure. But they say, okay, in Singapore it's okay because you have a lot of greenery around it, and it's live food. It's not dead food. Next. And then they have I collected more than that, but it's like dozens or hundreds of competencies, because there's many competencies. Basically, they know how to do some gardening, but they also know, what to grow. So identifying the species is important, and they know what to pick, how not only to grow, but which one can be eaten, which one cannot be eaten, and then which one is good to eat, and then sort of some culinary skills, how to prepare. How to use it for healing, and then which one has nutritional benefits. So they also relate to, this one has whatever phytochemicals, I can't remember, but nutritional benefit. This one has a lot of vitamin C or E or A or whatever. And then one of the skills that many of them have is actually how to make compost. So once they are anti-waste people, they believe in recycling, but what can you compost? So this becomes a science in itself, how much of your food can you compost? Some people don't have any food waste because they compost everything. And then what else you can do with the food? You can make pickles, ointments, balms, and all that. Okay, next. Okay. And then, the food anthropology, there is a very famous food triangle, the cooked, the raw, and the rotten, right? So this is the ulam, maybe more like a square, which is that you're looking for the wild, not the cultivated. If it's wild and raw, that is the best ulam. That is the most exciting ulam. And if although you can have cooked, but you prefer raw, you can have it cultivated, but you prefer the wild. Okay, next. Then, so this is what I did with the bracketing, and then, so I have a lot of, quotes, maybe my quotes, maybe it's a bit long, but, so these are the things the meanings and motivation behind ulam consumption, what they're looking for. They're looking for the raw, the one that's healthy, the one that's local, the one that's familiar, what they remember from the childhood. I remember eating this, and then it must be fresh, in the sense that it's, sometimes it's from the plant to the mouth, as fresh as that. Next. And then motivations, why do they go into edible plant gardening? Because it's very convenient. So a few of them say, oh, when I just want to make a bowl of noodles, I just go and pick a few plants around the house, and it becomes a meal already. Okay, so then some say, oh, when I go to the garden, I feel very relaxed. And of course, the connection with food and connection with nature is very important. Next. So there's something of called ulama consciousness. Because once they become the people in this group, they start to see things differently. So there's a kind of change in perspective, right? As they learn more about food and more about gardening and even foraging. So becoming a forager, that means, most people say, oh, how can you just go to the roadside and pick something? So when people know that, okay, this is so good, this is so beneficial to you, why not go to the roadside and pick? But you have to overcome certain social inhibition. Because people say you must be crazy, why are you eating, chow, like chow, eating the weeds, right? You're eating the weeds. And then becoming food literate, so you start to question a lot of the things that you buy from the supermarket. You start to question everything. Becoming a locavore means supporting your local food system. You are eating local, and you're supporting the people who are growing locally. And then becoming a herbalist, so they start to have some medicinal knowledge about home remedies. They're not professional in this, but they are practicing it, okay? And for themselves and also for their friends. And then becoming an ulam advocate. So they start to say, oh, ulam is, the best thing, you should go international. One of them said
Go international.
One of them said that. And you should keep promoting it, because if you don't promote it, nobody knows about it, right?
Yeah.
And okay, next. And then so these are important. Of course, the obvious traits is they love food, they love to share, they love. But the other things which are not maybe so obvious is they love biodiversity and polyculture. Polyculture means that you don't grow the same thing. So most vegetable production and food production is a monoculture, like wait, sorry. Maybe I have to message. So it's a monoculture, and the way that vegetables are grown is monoculture. But the way that like permaculture practice and what the ulam gardeners are doing is they grow everything all together, but usually for lack of space. But actually, some plants help to ward off the pests for other plants. So we learn this sort of thing, companion planting, and then you also create a space for insects, for birds. So and then open to intercultural learning. So people are learning from each other, and then these are some of them are very committed anti-waste people. So they don't want to waste food, they don't want to waste anything. A cardboard box, they'll put it in the ground, and they're very pro-planet, pro-earth. So they are the ones who make environmental complaints, and then they basically support community farming. Next. Next slide. Okay. So it's a community in practice, although it's a WhatsApp, started out as a WhatsApp group, but there's, they have made connections, and then there's, people always love to share, like if they dig up some ginger, so they say, oh, I've got extra, so who wants? And then they're also sharing plants, and they're sharing knowledge. But sharing plants, they will say that, a few times it came up in the interview, oh, I have to give away some plants because I have too many. And if my plant dies, I can always get it back. So that's a common because it becomes a common resource. So we are always, oh, my plant died already, can I have, I know you have that one, can I have some? Because it's always growing, right? It's always abundant. Yeah.
And then she's saying plants and seeds too, I think.
And seeds also.
And seeds too.
So in fact, there's the people who are trying to save seeds, the seed initiative. They come and they have recognized our group. So we are officially a group under the seed initiative.
So the seed initiative. And
this is Amir Fitri. Amir Fitri, he's working with the rice farmers in Tibet. But he is this other thing called the seed initiative, because there's a universal convention. One of the treaties, they said that it will become illegal. So if Malaysia signs this treaty, it will become illegal for anyone to save their seats. You may not know about this. It's called, you know,
To save the seats.
Yes, so you
Yeah.
can only buy seats.
It's illegal to proceed the seats by yourself, by your own self.
Why?
Monopolize, like can monopolize, for example.
You cannot plant using your own seeds. You must
Some
buy
seeds-
the seeds
some
Buy the
from,
seeds. You should buy the seeds.
from the big corporations, from
Yeah.
the Monsanto or
Yeah,
I don't know.
Monsanto control
Yeah.
almost over 70% of the world's seeds trade.
So of course there's a lot of resistance from India, but I don't know about China.
Yeah, we have the same. We have the same
Also illegal.
same regulation and the law system for that to control the seeds trade and all kind of behaviors.
Already in place. That means in China already practicing that, or
Yeah, we already
Yeah.
have that regulation.
so now it's going to be worldwide. So they start with rice seeds because they want people, the farmers, only to buy the rice that can go with the pesticide. So they call it Roundup Ready, you know, like for palm oil plantation and all that. So,
So name of a pesticide, right?
and then they're going to introduce, I mean, they've already introduced the GMO seeds, right? So all these seeds are GMO seeds. So now they want to extend to beyond rice to everything else. So that's
Somebody
why,
gotta kill them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you only learn about this because, you know, of this, we are learning about plants and seeds and all that. So now we know that, you know, because most people never even heard about it.
Yes.
And
That they want to control.
because some seeds can use to be the medicine or any
Yeah.
other use.
It's terrible.
Yeah. So actually, it's part of a larger thing where, you know, they started out by saying that all these doctors who are not licensed are illegal, right? And that's how they do away with, you know, other like non-Western medicine. They're not registered. Oh, you know, you can say a TCM very good. Oh, but he's not registered as he's not a medical doctor or something. They cannot use the word doctor, right? So now it's extending to seeds as well. So now there are seeds which are called heirloom seeds. Heirloom seeds means you're reproducing the seeds in the traditional way, but you have to say it's an heirloom seed because it's not the seed where the company has a copyright over the seed. So the seeds that you buy is copyrighted, it's a patented or something. Patented, yeah. Yeah. So, but in the seed, I mean, we are conscious of it. We're not practicing it so much in terms of saving seeds and all that. But I think some people are very interested to do it if they can. Yeah. Okay. Next. Okay. So basically, this is the Malaysian food pyramid. So they said that you see, now you must consume more vegetables. How do you get Malaysians to consume more vegetables? But this is it's still a very conventional food pyramid. So I also mentioned, but I forgot to put it here. It's like the Brazilian dietary guidelines. So a lot of people praise the Brazilian dietary guidelines of 2014 as the best, the most intelligent guidelines in the world. It just says, just eat local food, don't eat processed food, don't eat ultra processed food. And then eat the food that is prepared locally and you can eat it fresh and you just go to the local place and just eat the local food.
Simple as that, yeah.
Simple as that.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's the most sensible way, you know.
And produce it will include farming too, right?
I mean, yeah, that means that people buy from the wet market, they cook for you, you know, you cook the freshly cooked food. I mean, the kedai makan or whatever that cooks the freshly cooked food. So it's not processed. And then take time to eat the food. You know, also you have to brush up on your cooking skills and your food preparation skills. But you must spend some time doing that, and then eat in good company. When you eat, you must eat with friends. You know, so it's like all these very common sense things, and this is the Brazilian food guideline. And it is totally
there's
different.
there's no pyramid there.
There's no pyramid. They don't ask you to count calories. No calorie counting, because this calorie counting is just, you know, it's just wrong. I mean, it's a.
It's just construction by some kind of.
Yeah.
You made us Hungarian.
Huh?
You made us Hungarian.
I mean, no, and the other thing is that, you know, there's
This is a long
because
time.
the West.
No. You look like Hungarian.
Yeah.
They're hungry now. They're hungry.
So the Western farmers, you know, science. Okay, they always talk about vitamin A, B, C, D, right?
Yeah.
But you know, the other food systems is different. Like for example, for TCM, you want if you take this, you must take this and this, because it's to balance, you know.
Balance.
So it's a more complete science. It's more holistic, you know. Whereas that one is just, and then all these people who are taking all these foods with vitamin A, B, C, D, all the alphabet vitamins, they still become sick. And then when they become sick, they are dependent on these Western drugs. And then when they are Western drugs, they didn't tell you the side effect. So every drug actually produces a deficiency. Anyway, talk about anyway. Next slide. Okay, so the impulse towards community farming. Of course, not everybody has access to a community garden, but this one is that Taman Jajar, the one in Sungai Ara. And it's actually, they are very far advanced of the people who are just gardening by ourselves, because there's a lot of exchange of knowledge, and they're learning from each other all the time, right? So there are, actually this is a movement throughout the world. The whole food movement and growing your own food movement and the food literacy movement is actually everywhere throughout the whole world. The only difference about ulam is that ulam is very local, so we prioritize ulam because it's raw, it's wild, it's local, and it's actually part of a larger food movement where they're saying that actually this is the way that you get your health back, you know, and so it empowers people to, you know, take action and do something for themselves. Next slide. Okay. So then I revised my abstract bit. So basically it's an anthropological exploration into meanings and motivations of ulam consumption and edible plant gardening among the middle class urban dwellers. So ulam is a major food resource in rural areas. Actually, people in rural areas still are consuming ulam. But Malaysia is urbanizing so fast that we have become so distant from the ulam and also from the knowledge of ulam, right? Because we are now, I don't know, 70-80% urbanized. And then at the same time, the food is changing because you cannot get certain things. You can get fast food more conveniently, you can get packaged food more conveniently, so people's eating habits have become different. So ulam has become, I would say, the ulam is now exotic to urban dwellers. It's become like foreign, you know, exotic is foreign. Although it's actually very local. So the local has become very exotic. Next. Okay, so to economists and agribusiness, food is a commodity. But ulam has evaded commodification because the formal agriculture has totally ignored it. And then formal agriculture focuses on nutritional food crops. That means food that can give you energy and so forth. So, and then indigenous knowledge attributes ulam with amazing health properties. And the ethnobotanical studies, there's so many of them, hundreds or thousands, you know, which, but each one saying that, oh, this one actually has some phytochemicals. I mean, they're all not conclusive, so to speak, but some are more convincing than others lah. So but they tend to validate their value as functional food. Functional food means that the food serves a certain purpose because it has micronutrients. It's served to detoxify or whatever. Next. The research draws upon narratives of these 20, maybe should be 40, is it?
Sure, doing masters.
Masters 20, okay. But I think I will get a few more, so maybe 25 lah. And then, so they have, because of the friendship, so it's become a hybrid social network among the core group lah, not everybody. There's still a lot of observers who are not actively involved.
Including me.
So they are attracted to the idea of ulam as health food and cultural food. Both it's health and also cultural. and it's a micro gardening as a leisurely therapeutic activity, and they're also growing their own food as a way to deal with larger health and environmental issues. So these three things are separate. There's different strategies, but then because this Ulam Garden Club combines the three things, so it provides a space to question, global industrial food products and to get alternative food and health solutions, using the understanding of food as medicine. So in the ethnic, the local food thinking is that, food is your medicine, but it's only that Western food and pharmaceutical system that tells you, oh, this is your food, this is your medicine. And in the end, you will take more medicine than food. You take more pills. If you want to take real food or you want to take pills. Basically, people have a choice. Next. So it's similar to many progressive community food gardening networks, mushrooming across the world. It's actually a world. And the literature, even in the last 3 years, 3 years ago I couldn't find so many articles. Now there's so many articles. And there's even articles that synthesize what's happening, and then talking about food hegemony, and this is the counter food. So this transformative learning space allows ordinary people to participate in everyday sense-making conversations about politics of food choice. So learning at their own pace, they're self-directed, there's non-linear learning, right? So members have opportunity to gain critical literacy in food systems and gradually transition from being passive consumerists to becoming engaged as food citizens. Okay. Next slide. I think. Oh, okay. So I kind of did a little chart, but it's not. It's still in progress, lah. So, So there's some also interesting things about eating more vegetables. So basically, we all have to eat more vegetables, but you don't want to eat the same vegetables. So you want to have a bit of excitement. So you put some ulam. So ulam should be part of the diet. And some of the people who were gardening, they said that actually being involved in gardening, it opens, the children become more adventurous in terms of eating vegetables. So actually if they start at an early age, then they don't get this phobia of vegetables. Because later on, once they get phobia of vegetables and they don't eat much vegetables, then they get health problems. So so this is one of the insights, but there's a few other insights. Okay, I think that's it. Finish. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Finish.
Oh,
Okay.
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 All right. Take a 5-minute break.
Right.
And then
Okay.
we come back.
It's totally a new area for me. I just felt like a lesson.
It was new for me also 3 years ago.
It's totally new. No, never mentioned it. It's the first time I saw.
First time.
Yeah, and I think 我想他可能把我当做了你，就我从那边出来，他就巴拉巴拉 continue speaking to me. Yeah, then I make an introduction. I'm leaving. Oh, you are here. And welcome. So maybe she mistake me you to meet you. Presentation 是吧？
但是因为我有2个 plan，就相当于报项目招标，他定了一个标，我就做
他也
这个标。
不知道是吧？现在还不是很了解。
对，因为 Plan B 的那个 document 还没有
见过。我就刚跟他说上第一句话，然后就进来。我昨天刚到，我就晚上刚说下午。
With those actors like the gardener and through with the math.
What is the response?
Yeah, what's their response and how to define the middle class people?
Oh, how to define?
In this class.
I didn't define them really. They are people. I mean, they are quite comfortable in the sense that they have time. Actually, the one thing is not so much the money, but they have time.
中国不是推双创嘛，
How can they do
大
that?
众创业、万众创业，大学生们都要去参加创业比赛。创业是教育的，创业的。但现在，但现在不是，大学就要变成什么职业本科呀，跟那种本科教育的那个划分开来，通过什么推职业教育。然后想说，职业教育一出来的话，那原来我们很多的学校当时扩招嘛，就像我自己的专业现在就要转设计，你要转成职业大学、普通大学。那我本来的那种研究型大学的那种创业教育，因为职业大学创业教育有一点分开。现在其实不是统一的，大家完成各种指标啊什么的。
Something to do with food, where you know you kind of adopt a few farmers, and then you know that they don't use pesticides.
现在
So
就是
we try to buy
职
from
业
the
教育这样
different
推出来的背景下面之后，以后我们对于就是现在普通的本科教育的这种创业教育啊，是不是得有侧重？比如说，就现在不是大家混在一块儿，以后是不是像这种研究型大学的创业教育，就应该集中在一些高精尖的产业的学术教育的这种以后的产出嘛？那对于职业教育那种的，可能就土一点的开小店呀、开网店呀什么的。但是对于职业教育的研究型大学的这种教育，像现在我们上的创业课，也都很基础的，他们也都是就是那种。
They actually know like what he's going to. Oh, it was heavy rain and something was destroyed, and
其实你可以
so you
对
must buy more
现
from
在不
him.
是
You
职
know,
业教育的相关信息嘛？你可以对比一下现在那些学校的那种创业教育这些，比如说最普通的这个课程，然后你会发现不同类型的大学教育创业的教
oh,
育
maybe you can ask the question.
Yeah, come, let's get
主要是文献研究好吗？
just,
你需要
这个也这个
okay, let's get back. I think
哎呀，我这不也就
well, I got a few things. I'm just going to go sequentially, maybe. What is it? This is a lengthy presentation you have, yeah. So doing for the Viva, we need to shorten this one.
Okay.
We can have that. But this is good because we are doing the whole thing. Right? Now, the other thing I want to say is that the findings are not clear, but I know where it starts just now because you were doing some literature review. You are analyzing the problem and all that. So you do want to follow the what is it, the thesis format, the normal thing, intro, background, literature review, problem statement, research questions, and that kind of. When it comes to findings, you want to have a big title of findings so that you can it's clear to the audience, especially examiners. Yeah. The other thing that would help before we go to the substantive part of the discussion would help is also to because you are actually presenting your findings right now, is to repeat the research question and then the findings. So it's a research question. These are the findings answering the research questions. Yeah? So that and that will be the format at the end as well in your chapter when you report your in the discussion the final chapter rather. Like you can say, well, I've addressed question number 1, research question number 2. So it should answer the research questions. Okay, now let's go to the more substantive part of the discussion, of the presentation and the thesis. Now, since you are doing, you did mention bracketing there, and we did talk about anthropology, right? Anthropological research and productive research as well. So, so if you use the term anthropological exploration, So the methodology that goes along with it will be ethnography, right? I'm not sure this is ethnography. You're not doing ethnography, right?
No,
right? Okay.
because remember you, from the
Phenomenology.
beginning, from the beginning,
Yeah.
you said, oh, ethnography is a cop-out.
What I said is that when ethnographers say that they do not have instruments, except they are the instrument, right? That is a cop-out answer. But ethnography as a methodology is very a very powerful methodology because it's very immersive and that very detailed, and ethnographers can be very detailed in describing the findings, the community especially. But we want to be consistent here. If you're using anthropological exploration, then you want to use the word ethnography. Then you do want to have a different kind of reporting of your findings, right? So ethnography will involve participant observation, you are present. But if you are doing interviews, then you might not want to use the word anthropology, right? Because I think you are using interviews mainly, right? Or mainly interviews, right? Okay, then just omit the word anthropology, and then will come the problem there.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you remove the word anthropology. Otherwise, anthropology would mean you need to be, immersed in the community. You can argue you're doing a cyber ethnography, which means you're embedding yourself in the community. But then this is not quite a cyber community like the Facebook or it is WhatsApp mainly, right? Although there's the content is rich there, so and then the line of argument, the line of reasoning might also be different, and it will be a lot more about your embedding, interacting in the WhatsApp or social media, and that's not what you want to highlight. That's not what you want to highlight. You actually want to highlight the interviews you're getting from the ulamas there. Now, so you can use the word. You can use the word in-depth interviews, or phenomenology. Now, what is it? You also did mention bracketing. Bracketing is a phenomenology term. So when you say bracketing, we are actually referring to you're bracketing your own thoughts and biases or presuppositions and all that in the process of carrying out the research. So that's bracketing in phenomenology. So basically, phenomenology is very, very abductive in the sense that we do not want to let our own theories, constructs influence the research. So the research or the findings remain pure, and then at the same time recognizing that the researcher has her own thought as well. So it's like bracketing your own thoughts there on the side. Right? So if you want to do the phenomenological approach, then it's still very useful because you're using the word consciousness and all that. That's very phenomenology. That's very phenomenological because consciousness getting to the essence of the ulama's meanings about ulam, about edible gardening.
Helpful.
So that's very phenomenology. So you do want to, if you want to do that, then put that in and replace it, replace the anthropology, right?
Okay.
And then.
But then what kind of do I come up with a major or not a major or what?
Major.
I mean, so then they will say you got your masters in what?
Oh, okay. That it won't affect that. But when you register,
social science or
when you register, what's the code?
I put anthropology.
Anthropology.
This is sociology or anthropology.
Okay. Then there's no problem. Anthropology, sociology. Then
it's okay.
So again, because
okay.
it's the same with our.
Phenomenology is kind of a method to anthropology.
It's a method in social sciences. It begins with philosophy. It's not even sociology, anthropology. It begins with philosophy. But then, and it went into the social scientists came in. It went to psychology. It went to sociology. It went to many fields.
Okay, but I do something like this lah, which is I take out the quotes, you know, and then I sort of highlight and then you know what, and then group them into certain themes,
which
right?
is
Themes
what
and sub-themes and all that.
phenomenology will be like that.
Yeah.
The only thing that you want to add is the bracketing, what your own, is your own reflection of your own thoughts process or your own reflection. So it can be something that you report at the end of the findings, you know, or some people would do it at the beginning and at the end. So you just want to have a discussion on bracketing your own thoughts or reflections. Right? Just a couple of pages will do as well. Or if you find that you know you can just use the word in-depth interviews, you find as well. Okay, because you have a lot of good content here. You have a lot of emerging constructs, emerging theories here, right? So this is very much, I can see it's very phenomenological in that sense. There's the same, in the same space of ulam community and edible planting, there's different experiences emerging, right? To themselves, to the activities, to the eating part of it, to the knowledge, right? So there's so many things emerging. So this is very phenomenological. Now, the other thing you have, which I find it quite fun to read, because you have all these labels for the different types of people in each category too, and your categories are interesting. And that's phenomenology as well. Now, the challenge for typologists is to have the typologists mutually exclusive, right? But if you cannot have the typologists mutually exclusive, for instance, the person overlapping, right? The person is also here, also there, and it's hard to draw a line. So what you do is you can have these typologies as ideal types, right? But you basically have a note to say that these are not mutually exclusive, and they're overlapping, right? So, or you want to do something like this. If you have a paper, I can draw to you, and it's like this. The is all on the other side, and they lock the door. So you could have like this, right? Type 1's okay. I can use it. Thanks. Type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, type 5. These are different typologies. The names you have, right? The names you have. But you can the person or you can have you can this, you can have that. You know, this person 1, person 2. I have combination of the typology. So one can have different.
That is also very subjective.
That's also subjective. This is how, but this is what we call the second order construct in phenomenology. So you can actually group them, right? And you can do this. This is another way to solve the problem of overlapping or non-mutually exclusive typologies, right? And oftentimes is this, they are not mutually exclusive. So you want to deal with that. So it will not come up during the examination that if they say the lines are not clear, you address it immediately. So it's not a problem. The other one there's also the landed and the non-landed members, right?
Yes.
So the people who have plants in the house, is that something that you look at as well?
Yes, I did, but let's see. It didn't quite. I had a section for it, but I can have a separate discussion.
Okay. Just something to note because and then the Penang being Penang people also, not many people are landed. Then not many people have landed properties.
It's picked up from the interviews also picked that up. Some have a lot of constraints, but they somehow manage to
in their condos or apartments. In the little balcony where they grow plants too. So you might want to have that discussion there about landed and non-landed members. People who have lands and people who have non-lands. Oh, it's really raining today. Okay. I was just curious. The sirih, eating sirih, is a cultural practice, which is basically eating. Sirih is a form of ulam, right?
But it's not ulam at all.
It's not ulam. It's not considered ulam, eh?
Because you don't eat it, you only chew, then you
Chew.
spit it out.
Yeah.
It's more
Sirih.
like smoking.
It's you know, I'm just. I was
But
thinking
you know, there's another saying, which one of the interviewers told me, something like, macam kadut naik junjung.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Macam kadut, kadut nak junjung betul. Because kadut looks like sirih.
It looks like sirih, but it's as somebody who has as, but they're not sirih. Sirih is a noble
plant.
kadut is like very common.
Very common. You can see sirih will be growing this way. Kadut I think grow crawlers, right? Yeah, which is another interesting. But I was thinking about sirih there.
I think sirih is in the category by itself.
Category by itself, yeah. Which is I thought because so it's not ulam per se. So people don't eat sirih and swallow it.
You cannot swallow.
Don't, yeah.
No.
Sirih is a kind of medicinal, but the sirih is used for treatment, right? I know they use sirih for
It's
treatment.
like smoking lah.
It's like smoking, yeah.
But you can actually decoct it. That means you.
Yeah, can blend it and all that.
You don't blend.
don't?
But you can rebus lah.
Rebus, yes. You can boil it. You can boil it. You can boil it and get the
But somehow it's never considered ulam.
Yeah, interesting, yeah. And yet you have a separate, separate tapak sirih, separate container for sirih, so it's like
and it's very ceremonial.
very ceremonial. But the old folks do eat sirih and chew.
They chew, then they spit it out.
They spit it out, yeah. Okay.
So there was an article in Far Eastern Economic Review in those days saying that the taxi drivers in Taiwan, they work so hard, they're spitting blood. Actually, they're chewing sirih. In Taiwan, they chew sirih, then they spit out. It looks like blood. So they say, they work so hard. The poor taxi drivers, they're
So you don't understand, yeah.
So Taiwan is also a culture of sirih.
Culture sirih. Well, Taiwan is connected to the Malays too, right? Ethnically, the Taiwan, one particular ethnic group in Taiwan, DNA connected to sirih. They have certain words that are similar to Malay words as well. Some Taiwanese, not the Han Taiwanese. The ethnic Taiwanese, they have the same. Anyway, there will be something with that. That's interesting because sirih is a different category by itself. Yes, it's ceremonial and all that. What is it? Okay. What would is there a different word for ulam for indigenous people? Do they use a different word or?
I don't know.
Construct maybe?
No, because I think for the Orang Asli, there are so
Asli
many
are
different
tribal
tribes.
people.
There are so many different tribes.
So maybe a different word for different tribes. Okay, just because you did say that the knowledge came from indigenous and then to the local.
So there is an overlap between Malay ulam and what the Orang Asli are eating.
Yes.
But it's not may not be the same because they have a much more wider variety.
The richer variety too. They might know more also.
But you see this UCAM study is quite interesting. So they're growing ulam for the Klang Valley supermarkets.
Okay.
But then their own ulam has no pesticide. And what they grow for this is ours. Ours has no pesticide. The other one has some,
So, okay. Well, there's a when you go to the wet market, I know that some old folks will choose vegetables with holes in it, because it shows that there's no pesticide. So vegetables without holes, with holes, and that which means the worms can eat it, that the pests can eat it, so it's healthier. That's how you can tell. So talk about anthropology, bracketing, I think one big thing that you might want to highlight, right, sometimes, because you have so much here, and your findings are so rich, right? You can capture certain main essences from this one. For me, I think the one, like, but this is only my own perspective, is the whole sharing culture. It creates a very sharing culture, sharing of food, sharing of seeds and plants, sharing of knowledge. I think that's a big part. So if you can capture at the end certain essences, and the whole idea of commons, and making the especially in Nusantara, creating this the whole opposite of privatization and the capitalist kind of what is it, practice. The whole thing is commons. Everyone can access it. You can go there. You can share. You can, and the general cultural practice is sharing. Sharing, right? So maybe so you can capture certain key things like that and highlight it, I guess. So they might start from different entry points into the ulam community or the edible gardening community, but then eventually they develop kind of this intersubjective meanings of the whole experience, and in terms of practice, this is a sharing practice. The last but not least, I think, is the one you showed at the end, that you have all these arrows. You want to be careful with the arrows, because if you have arrow pointing toward one direction, then you're suggesting a causal or a directional reasoning there. So instead of arrows, you might just want to use lines. Instead of arrows, you use lines. It's related, connected, but you're not sure how. Okay, but you're going to work on this part because I'm not sure how you're going to make these connections there. But surely they'll be connected. But maybe you can come up with something that is clearer and whatever. Because we're talking about presenting as a thesis. So I think you have some. This is. I need a bit more improvement, and then you're ready for submission. And then there's one more step. Put in my inputs, and then you're ready for submission. Of course, you got to show me the whole. I need to see the whole thing first, right? But I think you have something real solid here. How many pages have you come away?
Well, the thing is, the interviews can be quite long. So if I include the interviews, which I'm trying to shorten a bit the interviews.
You don't need to, but
okay.
don't. But you're talking about the transcript or
the transcript. I
the
mean,
transcript.
it's one hour spacing.
Material.
It's about like 160 pages, but if I take out the interviews, it's 100 pages.
Okay, you don't have to. Or if you feel that the chapter is too thick, right, and you can break up the chapter and then still have the findings, and then you can actually do the analysis together with the findings at the end. So that's another way to format the chapters. But I think you have, so once you have improved and look at the final draft, I think you have something really concrete there. So
but when is the deadline?
You got to check. I think it's in your. I can check it out.
I don't understand the dashboard thing.
The dashboard thing.
I don't understand what it is.
Let me see. You have it on? I don't have my laptop. I can.
Okay.
And if you're not sure, you can always ask Ashima.
I did ask her, but she's not giving me much.
Okay. Yeah, you don't want to miss the deadline, no?
No. I mean, but this is my final term actually.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know whether I can get it done in time or not.
Have you extended yet? Before?
Haven't.
No.
I haven't. So this is actually 3 years.
Alright. If you need to, you can extend, or the other one is to turn into part-time. There's another way to do it. Yeah, because
I can still do that, is it?
You can still do part-time for masters. Yes. And then you pay less in extended.
Yeah, I should have started with part-time actually, because I was like dragging the whole thing. But
you have it there?
wait, I'm trying to.
Okay, I can see. So yeah,
I mean, when does this semester end?
when does the semester end? Thing is, I'm not teaching undergraduate, so I don't have that. I don't know when the
I
semester.
see. No, even for you. I mean,
Well, it's not so relevant. Relevant
oh,
date
it's
for
not
me to
relevant.
know. It's not. I mean, we have chances are it'll be July, end of July, maybe, I don't know.
July is very, very soon.
Very soon, just a couple of days away.
Oh, so I may have to extend, right?
You might want to extend. I don't know when does it last date. Anyone knows? Semester ends. When does semester end?
There's like no communication by email, but they never tell me anything.
What do you mean?
You know that we have 2 semesters in a year, right?
Yeah.
So this semester ends in
The semester
not
end.
not too.
Yeah.
So to which
When
They're 3 weeks away or something like that. 3-4 weeks away, right?
It's end maybe August. In August.
Okay.
Next month, no, actually finish.
No, I just know next semester it's just going
You
to
can
start.
integrate
start
in
in
6
No, 88%, it's like that.
23rd of October.
6 months, yeah? Your candidature period is less than 6 months.
You mean the holiday?
There.
6 months.
The holiday is
The-
from
36
1 month.
months maximum, there.
Okay.
31st then.
Okay, 31st.
It's nearly the end of this semester.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't understand this dashboard thing.
Supposed to capture the whole thing, that's what
I
it was.
just
remember
tick,
I
tick, tick,
take
tick.
Bahasa Melayu.
Yeah.
August finish.
August, right? Something in August, yeah.
For undergraduate, but I have until October.
Yeah, but you don't want to end October, of course. So you
No.
don't have to extend, you can get the
One
draft,
semester.
first draft ready. First draft ready by when can you end? July? End of July?
Okay.
Can you get okay. July, then you can show me and then I will just have a final look at it. If you're ready, then you can send me in August. So you don't have to extend. Extend, you have to pay, of course. Yeah. So, because the other way is to change it to part-time. There'll be another strategy. But part-time, there's a catch to that because you cannot complete it early.
Oh, I
Pro
see.
rate.
Yeah.
For this pro rate part time.
Something like that.
Pro rate, yeah.
Pro rate.
Yeah.
2 months. I think.
I better try and finish it this
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
Because I've got
just
so
do it,
many other
just-
things that I want
yeah,
to
July.
do that, you know.
Yeah.
After I finish this, then
Yeah.
other things.
July, you want to make sure. Yeah, let's have that target July. It can come out your.
Yeah. It can be actually simplified. So when you read it, if you think that it's unnecessary, just delete.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Do that, and then, but you have your stuff here. I think not to worry about the findings now. You have the findings. It's just a matter of presenting the findings. So, reasoning out that research question number 1 has been addressed. We should just do that so that it's clear. Because you have a lot here. So the reader, the examiner, maybe when they read, okay, they say, well, we are done. Question number 1, question number 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, wonderful. Anyone has any questions, comments?
I just
Hello?
want to see
sorry.
the research title on research question. Can
You want to say research question? Okay.
title.
I can't remember my research question.
You might have a bit too many, maybe. I'm
I
not
know,
sure. Let
yeah,
me see. I sense that you have a bit 5 or something, right?
No, the research question was just like,
There,
what
right.
are they interested in?
Okay.
Up there, yeah. You might want to rework on the
What
research.
types of people join the Ulan Gardening Club? For research title, you target the middle class.
Actually, yeah. 1 and 2 can be. But there's a research topic, right?
Yeah, I'm actually quite confused between aim, objective, topic, I don't know,
The
problem.
most important is research questions. So you think about research questions.
I'll go to the title. Research title.
So the title have middle class there. Middle class, middle income.
It's middle class.
Yeah.
You already targeted here middle class.
That's right.
Why you asking?
Okay, I think I didn't say, I mean, I cannot qualify why they're middle class, but they're English speaking. you know,
Yeah.
and they have enough leisure time to take part in this sort of thing. So I didn't go and ask them how much do you earn,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
for
yeah.
example. So can I say middle class or just people? I mean,
That's a good point that Mutadi raised. Maybe instead of middle class, let's look at that. But then the title will change afterwards. But it's okay. Instead of middle class, just put
urban dwellers.
urban dwellers. Yeah.
Okay. Urban dwellers is.
But do you know where do they
Middle class?
generally stay? Yeah?
In the accreditation, still they mention that the middle
No,
class,
there's no mention
even
there.
no.
I think
No.
no need lah. So urban dwellers, huh?
Urban dwellers.
Okay.
Implement, yeah.
So they're not rural, they're urban. That's
Yeah.
right.
This is something I think in our discussion with Zakir was asking, right? He was talking about possibly the middle class among urban dwellers. Yeah, I think that's simple enough. Or you can say there's something like ulam. Go ahead. Yeah? Ulam consumption and edible plant gardening. Semicolon.
And they're also English speaking.
English speaking.
Of
But
English.
that you can explain that in the methodology.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you like, okay, ulam consumption and edible plant gardening among urban dwellers.
It's like a micro
Internet.
community.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you can come up with some creative title. This can be the next one. So the first one is you probably have some creative ideas of how would you describe this whole phenomena?
How? I have to describe it in, I don't know which one stands out like that.
How about for instance, yeah, you got the ulamas and then semicolon ulam consumption yeah. The title can be ulamas or yeah. I'm meeting ulam or something. You know, something it is some shortened title or something like that.
Attractive.
Something attractive, right? Avengers.
Avengers.
I mean, this is how it's some simple, some you know some. So sometimes one word or two words or three words might capture this whole experience. You know, this is where anthropologists are good. They have this research called the men under the white robe. It's a study of doctors, blah blah blah. Men with the white robe or something like that. Just so which is semicolon, the study of doctors. You know, I'm getting
well, originally it was ulam eaters and gardeners.
It's simple, but sleep over it and think about it and something. You know, the green fingers or getting my hands dirty or whatever.
Oh,
I know what I mean. Yeah, like a title of a book, right? Like a title of a book, yeah. And then whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we want to rework on your research. I'm not sure the research questions are clear, but your findings are clear. Research questions.
Yeah, I know. I think I have to research.
Yeah. In fact, number one and number two can be combined.
Because Also intersubjective cultural meanings. You know, at that time I was thinking of go and analyze the WhatsApp conversation, but I just had such a headache looking at that thing that I decided to do interview. So it's not so much the conversation between them, although there is relationship between them. They say that, oh, I went and got this from somebody, and so and so taught me how to do this. You know, so it's so much. It's not so much the conversation. I'm not analyzing the conversation in the WhatsApp group lah.
Meanings and behavioral dynamics of what are the meanings and behavioral dynamics? That will be very general question.
Okay.
What are the meanings and behavioral dynamics of blah 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 blah, right?
Okay.
Or you can separate that into two: the meanings and then the behavioral dynamics. So that and then the tacit knowledge and all that can be another separate question. Yeah, because you actually captured the knowledge, right? The competencies, yes.
Competencies,
yeah. So you capture that one again. Yeah. So basically, you look back at your findings, create the research question.
Yeah. I think that's better. Competencies. I have actually.
You look at your findings there, and just create the research questions at the top there.
I think that's.
That's better. So you don't have to. You don't have to change anything there down there. You just, just reversing the process. Okay. I think we are near good point. Tadi you guys are saying about the because I kind of noted there that the point because you use want to say that you have the word middle class and you want to discuss that a bit on the middle class. But you don't have that.
And I might just add something that actually which I think is relevant to public policy. So how can this ulam culture, you know, contribute to this, to encourage people to eat more vegetables, so, and to basically to diversify, you know, the vegetable intake, and the ulam culture itself can be one of these counter-hegemonic cultures, subculture, right, that can spread and then convince people just to eat more healthily.
Yes. I think that something to note, our policy implications, policy discussion. Last time we have this buku hijau, remember?
Yes.
The green book. So Malaysia had the green book. Right after Mao Zedong came out with the red book. Right? We came out with a green book. About the same after that, right?
1971. I think 1971.
But the green book is about urban, about home.
It's not home farming. It's actually agricultural
policy. Buku hijau.
So that's why, and they came up with this Atan Nelayan at the same time. So that's the time during the Tunku Tun Abdul Razak's time that they said that the fishermen and the farmers are the backbone of the society. You know, they make it so noble. You know, like they are the one that everything, the industrial progress is built on their backs because they created the economic base. So that then in the 80s, Mahathir came in with industrialization. But now people have forgotten, and then the farmers and the fishermen are treated very badly in Malaysia. That displays, they just move them out to other places, you know.
Then how to get to the fish?
How to get the fish?
Because it's a sea country, yes.
Exactly.
There are so many.
It is. Yeah, maritime country. Very much so.
But the most, you see, it comes from, from like hundreds of years ago.